The July 1st Lane Community College Board of Education regular meeting will now be called to order. Joe, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Kevin Althunder.
Here.
Austin McFarlane.
Here.
Jesse Maldonado.
Here.
Steve McCullough.
Here.
Zach Mulholland.
Here.
Gary Russ.
Here.
Julie Houston.
Here.
Michael Olson.
Here. All here, present, thank you. I will now move on to the land acknowledgement. The land acknowledgement speaker today will be Pierre Morton. Will you please come up to provide the land recognition? Here? Yes, yeah, my apologies.
Thank you. Acknowledgement of homeland. I'd like to start our meeting with the acknowledgement that the land that we are on is the traditional homelands of the Kayapua people. The Kayapua were stewards of this very land for over 14,000 years before their traditional way of life was forever disrupted. We want to start our meeting with humility and reverence for the original inhabitants, the Kayapua. Thank you.
Thank you. So these meetings are kind of my favorite meetings because it's the selection of board chair and vice chair, as well as we'll later down the road be talking about committee appointments as well. The board, you have been given this document, which is the process of how we select our chair, vice chair, and so forth. How this will happen is we'll open it up to nominations. Any board member can make nominations during that time period. And then we do a vote in order, essentially. So if nomination 1, nomination 2, so on and so forth. And the votes are recorded aloud of who you vote for. And yeah, there's no seconds to the nominations or anything like that. We will start with the chair. And then once we elect a chair, I will then hand over the gavel to that individual. And then we move on to the vice chair selection. Before we begin, are there any questions of the process? Steve.
No questions. I'm ready to make a nomination. I'm raising my hand to make a nomination.
Understood. Excellent. Jerry had his hand up first, so we'll start with Jerry and then Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Jesse Maldonado as our next chair.
Yeah. One part of this is I do have to ask you if you accept that nomination. Jesse, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Excellent. Steve.
I would like to nominate Kevin Althunder.
And Kevin, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
All right. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. I would like to now give those who nominated the individual an opportunity to speak to their nominee, and then the nominee can have some time to speak as well. Jerry, you were first, so we'll start with you.
I think Jesse is one of the strongest young leaders that we have in Lane County. And I think we've seen his, the way he has treated people, his demeanor, his disposition, his calm demeanor, and kind of above all, fairness without rancor towards any other board member or any other member of the public or staff. So I am very impressed with him and I support him 100%. And I urge that we elect him as chair.
Excellent. Steve, and then if you want to speak to your nominee, and then I'll let the nominees speak. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. No disrespect, of course, to Jesse. I agree largely with things that were said in his favor. However, I nominated Kevin Althunder. He's a longstanding member of the community, a longstanding member of the board. He has an excellent relationship with our board, with our president, something that we could use to help repair relations between board and president. He's also very fair-minded person. He has expressed frequently and recently, or he has helped us, focus on the future, on the big picture, on the ends and not the means. And that is a thing that is sorely needed by this board right now.
All right. Now we'll move on to the nominees themselves. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
First of all, thank you to Trustee Rust. I appreciate your kind words. I, having served on this board for now a year to the day, it has been a privilege, and would be honored to have the support of board members. I also believe that Trustee Altucker would make a fantastic chair of this board for all the reasons that Steve mentioned. I believe that the role of the chair, obviously, is to make sure that these meetings run and that we are respectful to each other, respectful to our communities, respectful to our students, respectful to the staff, and I would hope to do so as chair.
Excellent. Kevin?
Well, I was just thinking about how great a chair Jesse would make, actually. And I can count the votes here. I would be honored to be chair. I think my always trying to bring the board back to governance and policy is a strong characteristic that I have. And I also would like, no matter who is chair, for this board to spend more time on looking to the future and how we can make the college better for generations to come after we're all not on the board anymore. So thank you.
Excellent. All right. Now that speeches have been made, nominations have been made, we've closed nominations, and we are now open to a vote. Like I stated, and per this document that was emailed out ahead of time, we will vote for all those in favor candidate 1, all those in favor candidate 2. We will record the votes for the final election. So that being said, all those in favor of Jesse Maldonado to be the board chair of Lane Community College signify by saying aye. Aye. All those in favor of Kevin Altucker signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Vote was 4-3. Jesse Maldonado is now the new board chair of the Lane Community College Board. Congratulations. I will walk this over to you.
Race, Kevin.
Great. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We'll now move on to the process for selecting a vice chair. This appointment again is from 2026 to 2027. I appreciate that, trustee. We will now open the floor for nominations for a vice chair. Are there any nominations for a vice chair? I see trustee, I was about to call you chair, trustee Full-Nagy, and then I'll go to trustee Mittal.
Yes, I would like to nominate board member Jerry Rust as vice chair.
Great. Thank you, trustee. Trustee Mittal.
I would like to nominate Kevin Altucker for vice chair.
All right, there are 2 nominations for vice chair, both trustee Rust and trustee Altucker. Trustee Full-Nagy, would you like to speak to your nomination?
First off, Jerry Rust is a very calming force and leader that I've had the pleasure of working alongside with. He is a man who looks at information and looks at it in its totality. He looks at dynamics, he looks at people, and he's always has this focus on the people, the institution, and the students. And not necessarily in that order, but those constantly come up when he speaks, whether if it's on his votes on issues, as well as one-on-one meetings. There's this, there's a lot of passionate people in the world, but I would have to say Jerry Rust is a very compassionate person. And that is a perfect, it's great for a chair. It's great for a vice chair. And I think that we continue to glean from his wealth of knowledge, both from his previous public service experience, but also what I've experienced as vice chair over this last year. And I think that there's great knowledge that he can bring to agenda setting meetings. He has already done that, as well as these board meetings.
Thank you, trustee. Trustee Mittal, I'd like to speak to your nomination.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's no secret, unfortunately, we have had a very divisive year, and more than just a single year on this board. And we've had many 4-3 votes as we've had just now, and those divisions sort of have been laid bare frequently. I would ask fellow board members to see the value in putting somebody from both sides of that division in the leadership position to help to work together, to bring the two sides together, to bring different perspectives to our president. And I do think that Kevin and Jesse could work very well together. I would ask everybody on to consider that and the value that that may bring to help move us forward as an institution, as a board.
Thank you, nominators. Now we'll move on to our nominees. We'll start with Trustee Rust, if you'd like to speak to your candidacy.
My mother told me that attitude is everything. I've got a good attitude. I can work with everybody. I respect everybody. And I will accentuate what brings us together and what we have in common, not what divides us, because I really think that we are very close with each other. Even when we disagree, they're over matters that are not that significant. And again, I look forward to trying to bring this board completely together, and I enjoy working with Jesse. And let me say also, I've enjoyed working with Kevin too, and I can live with this vote no matter which way it goes.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Altucker, would you like to speak to your candidacy, please?
Sure, thank you. I'm honored to receive the nomination, and I have really enjoyed working with Chair Maldonado on the board and also on an ad hoc committee. And I think we share a lot of common values and work really well together. I'd be honored to serve with you.
Thanks. All right, now that they have spoken, we'll move one by one. First, for the nomination for Vice Chair of Trustee Jerry Rust. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now on to the nomination for Trustee Altucker to serve as Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Secretary? I believe it was 4-3.
4-3.
Yeah.
All right, we'll now move on. Congratulations again, Vice Chair Rust. We'll now move on to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any items that any trustee would like to pull from the agenda before adoption? Hearing none, all of those in favor of adopting, or how about a motion to adopt the agenda, rather?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
Trustee Fulnagi moves. A second?
Second.
Trustee Altucker seconds. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Any abstentions? The agenda is adopted. Now moving on to our equity lens. I did not prepare to read the equity lens. Trustee Fulnagi, would you mind? I feel like you have read it, and I will be prepared next meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah. To those who don't know, I've been wanting this to be a living document, something for us to consider each and every time before we start every board meeting. And what I've traditionally been doing as board chair has been reading a question out of the 6 questions that we need to ask ourselves in equity lens. The one that I will read today is number 5. How will you mitigate the negative impacts and address barriers identified above? Meaning the previous questions in the list. Thank you, Board Chair.
Thank you, Trustee. We'll now move on to responses to information requests. Are there any questions or comments regarding responses to information requests? Trustee?
Yeah, so I don't see a document attached. Is there any responses to information requests? That was, okay. Because I did submit a list of questions to the president in regards to these questions, a variety of questions that I have. And I know that we wanted to schedule a time to have a conversation about those questions, and we never got a chance to, and thus they weren't posted as information request items. I would like to ask permission to be able to ask those questions if possible.
Dr. Bolger, is there, a reason why there was no document for information requests?
I believe we're in the process of scheduling a meeting with the trustee.
Yeah, I sent this email back on the 24th. I responded immediately after you sent the email requesting a time to schedule. I said I was available at any time and looking forward to those discussions.
We can certainly answer the questions now if you like, if you want to
Is
take the
that-
time of the meeting. to do
Dr.
that.
Bulger, is that your prerogative? Can we keep
I'm
it,
fine with
can
it.
we keep it short?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, trustee, please.
All right. Thank you so much. The first question in regards to, does Lane Community College currently have a data sharing agreement or an agreement around student information and data with one of our sister colleges, Lynn Benton Community College? Is there an MO or a contract out situation that we have there?
We have an agreement with Lynn Benton Community College for institutional research.
Excellent. Oh, was there more? Sorry. Okay. In this agreement, I assume there's an MO or an agreement. Is there any language around data sharing, storage, language of data ownership? If third-party contractors can have access to this data? And is it possible for the board to receive a copy of this agreement or MO or whatever form it's taken?
So this is, we were considering this an operational matter. We generally don't share contracts with the board. And I'm not saying that there is a problem with that, but we generally don't share that. I will have someone actually come up and talk about that, the question that you asked first, which is about the data sharing in that agreement. Is anyone here who can do that?
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
In the agreement, there is a clause that the data is owned by Layton Community College, and while there is a data sharing connection, the data is solely owned by the college, and it does have a clause that covers that.
Perfect. Thank you. And is there any additional, President Bulger, my other question in regards to that was, is there any additional costs to the college for having this?
Yes, there is. The reason for this agreement, it might help with context for this, is we had a bit of a crisis on our hands. We were not going to be able to make our commitments with respect to compliance reporting. We have a compliance reporting with the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, with the federal government. We were in a position not being able to do that. And this was a measure in order to make sure that that occurred. We also have a lot of transition, and that you can hear about later as well, a lot of transition going on in our institutional research area. This is the real question we believe that is being asked is, does this replace the staff? And it does not.
Well, that's not necessarily the question I was asking. I was just more or less, it's my personal opinion that, the data of students at Lane Community College belongs to the students at Lane Community College. So I'm really glad to hear that, that aspect of it. Are there any measures for data security, risk assessment, and liabilities?
Well, Lynn Benton Community College would have the same things in place that Lane Community College has, and there's FERPA requirements. And again, the data is owned by Lane Community. Those are all clauses in the contract.
Perfect. That all actually settles a lot of my concerns around that. I'll shorten my last question here, which is in regards to updates of the HIM teach out process. So obviously we were informed that there would be a teach out process. And I believe in the reporting that there was 28 total students in the HIM program, Health Information Management. How are the students, but my overall question is, how are those students doing? Are they transferring to Klamath Community College okay? Are there other potential HIM programs that they're transferring to? Have any of them dropped out? Have any of them dropped the program? That type of information is really helpful. Considering that we as a board voted to close this program, I think it's very prudent to understand what the teach out process has been.
Dr. Bulger, do you mind? I would just suggest that maybe we provide a more thorough response later and not necessarily put you on the spot right now to answer that question, unless you'd like to, but.
And that's perfectly fair.
That later.
I just, for time's sake also.
100%. Yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine. Thank you so much for letting me ask those questions.
Thank you. I appreciate those questions. All right. Any other questions or responses to information requests? Great. We will now move on to public comment. We'll now be moving on to public comment. Before we begin this public comment, we want to acknowledge the strong feelings in our community as seen by the number of individuals wanting to speak during public comment. Your voices matter, and we are here to listen. To ensure everyone has the opportunity to be heard and that we conduct the business before us, I'm asking everyone to observe meeting rules. Please respect the time limit and direct your comments to the board. The board may not respond directly to any issue raised during public comment, but will refer those issues to the president for appropriate action. We welcome passionate advocacy, but personal attacks, profanity, and interruptions prevent productive dialogue. If you're called out of order, I'm asking for your cooperation in getting us back on track. If disruptions persist, we will need to take appropriate action that could warrant removing individuals from the boardroom or recessing the meeting. We do not want to do that. We want to hear from you, so let's work together to make sure this is a forum where everyone can participate respectfully. Thank you for being here and for caring about the college community. The board may not respond directly to any issue raised, as we've said, but will refer those issues to the president. Jove, do we have any public comment tonight?
Chair,
Yes, Trustee Weisman?
it's just a point of personal privilege. I'm noticing in the online chat that there's people who are on inside the Zoom who are using emojis and they're floating across the screen. I don't think that that's one of the things that we allow in Zoom. I'd like to see if media services could turn that off. Thank you.
They're working on it, it sounds like. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Jove, public comment?
Correct. We have 3 in person and 3 online. So we'll start with the in person.
Okay, go ahead.
Our first is Jay Smith, an incoming student.
And just as a reminder, with the low number, we will have 3 minutes for each citizen to provide their comment.
Turned it on.
Thank you.
Hello? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Jay Smith. I'm a community member and I'm also going to be taking LCC classes in the fall. I have a few issues with how this college is being run. This administration has taken extreme action against a dissident voice. They've proved yet again that the fears of retaliation for speaking out against injustice are well-founded. And what, pray tell, was this voice speaking out about? Well, members of this board are bought and paid for by business interests, and this college's administration seems more interested in raising their salaries while some teachers qualify for food stamps. This is also the same administration that implements austere budget cuts while also hiring consultants seemingly on a whim. This information is nearly entirely Googleable and is a matter of public record. The business-backed board members have been cavalier with budget cuts, with one of them even cautioning his fellow board members back in April that seeking community consensus to reach a decision is magical thinking. The real magical thinking is believing that members of the board bought and paid for by the business lobby can represent the people who voted for him and to protect the well-being of the students. This individual dropped the ball on both counts. I don't think it's magical thinking for the community to come together and question whether or not some budget cuts are necessary given the administration's proclivity towards spending money on consultants. Instead of spending thousands of dollars on consultants, you could just consult with the community and faculty who are subject level experts. Listening to the concerns of your unions is likely to give you a better result than relying on external opinions that you're essentially paying for. At previous board meetings, certain board members have been uncomfortable with our questioning of management salaries. Do you really think that a lack of transparency does anything to benefit the community's trust in this college? I would love to know Richard's opinion, but sadly enough, he's currently unavailable for comment due to asking too many of these questions. This administration and the board routinely stated how they value student voices at the table until a strong opinion of disagreement was voiced, and then look what happened. Supposedly, the student was trespassed for, and I quote, conduct that has disrupted Lane Community College operations. So I have to ask, where is the notice for the Vice President of Academic Affairs who closed the application portal to HIM and didn't say anything for 10 days, which did real and measurable disruption to college operations? According to this formulation, when administration disrupts college operations, it is all fine and good, but when someone criticizes them, then the entire book must be thrown at them. How can that possibly be fair? Going into the fall, I am scared. And though I may be scared, I know that I'm not alone. This administration has proven time and time again to discredit and discount voices that it does not agree with. Members, please, stand with the students, stand with the faculty, decry this.
Thank you, Jay. Jove.
Our next student, we have Will, Garam? Graham? Garahan, thank you.
Hello, LCC board members. You might remember me. I've been here before, unfortunately. My name is Will Garahan. I am a current student at Lane studying sociology. And I'm concerned with the direction that our college has taken in these past several years. You know, it's incredibly sad to see the board cave to indirect pressures of the Trump administration in getting rid of our diversity, equity, and inclusion department, cutting entire academic departments left and right, instead of trying to work with the community and local and state government to fund our college, which is an essential pillar of our community's success. In addition, you should be incredibly ashamed of yourselves for the actions you've taken to intimidate students and suppress those who have dissented against these cuts. Some of you, a minority on the board, continue to work in the community's best interest. The remainder are clearly more beholden than corporate donors who got you elected. I would urge those of you that have continued to support these authoritarian measures to think twice if you believe you'll be reelected in the next cycle onto this board. This is Lane Community College, and our community has not forgotten that community part, even if you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jerry Minahan.
Jerry.
Good evening, members of the board and President Bolger. My name is Jerry Minahan. I'm a faculty member in the Cooperative Education Department. I'd like to share a few findings from a comprehensive review of more than 600 student self-evaluations submitted in my cooperative education courses between 2017 and 2025. Those courses are supervised work-based learning courses for academic credit. These students' responses reveal that co-op courses required in the majority of career technical degrees offered at Lane Community College are not only meeting their educational goals, they are often described by students as the most meaningful experience in their entire program. One student wrote, "This was easily one of my most positive experiences from school." Iterations of this response are very common. Here are 3 consistent themes across the data. The first, skill development. Students are learning to apply classroom knowledge in real workplaces. As one said, "I learned so much more about Server 2022 here than even in my advanced server class." Another shared, "I'm particularly proud of my ability to learn and retain new information quickly. I'm absorbing so much at a fast pace, which is incredible to me." Second, confidence and career clarity. Students are developing a sense of identity and confidence in their field. One student said, "I was offered a full-time position, which I'm so grateful for and will really set me up for a career as a CPA." Another reflected, "This internship helped me realize I could actually make it and thrive in a new and professional job field." Finally, deep appreciation for the experience. Students consistently express gratitude that this course is part of their degree. They describe it as transformative, essential, and the part that tied it all together. Representative quotes include, "This was easily one of my most positive experiences from school. It was a necessary and great experience. I learned more in the 108 hours of co-op than I did in most of my 2 years of schooling." This data supports that what I see anecdotally, that cooperative education helps students grow professionally, personally, and academically. It reflects Lane's mission in action, transforming lives through learning. Thank you for continuing to support this vital program. And I'll just quickly add how excited I was to be able to come and talk about something positive this evening. Thank you.
Thanks for doing that. Online now.
That'll be online. Our first one is Sunny Chiders? Or Chider?
Sonny, they're working to bring you online. When you have the ability to unmute, you should be able to. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all for hearing my comment tonight. My name's Sunny Childers. I'm a community member and a friend of Richard's, who is a student here. And the reason for my comment tonight is to express some concern about what appears to be a pattern of suppression and silencing that LCC administrators have been engaged in, which we've seen throughout the union bargaining process. But again, recently, my friend Richard was recently issued a citation. The reason was not given, but that bars him from setting foot on LCC campus despite being a student, or be liable for criminal penalties. And the reason was not given, but Richard likes to participate in democratic processes, like coming to board meetings, and is outspoken about giving comment. So I believe it has to do with that. And he was mentioning concerns about a potential conflict of interest with board members, including board member Kevin Alltucker, which is a matter of public concern. And of course, public comment is one of the few avenues that we have to hold officials accountable in the public sphere. So I urge the board to revoke the citation and be willing to engage in constructive dialogue on this issue, which is a matter of public concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunny.
Our next person online is Brandon Nugent.
Brandon, they'll be bringing you forward when you have a chance to unmute. Feel free.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hi, I'm Brandon Nguyen. Are we starting yet? Okay, good. Hi, I'm Brandon Nguyen. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a community member, and I'm going to keep my comments short. I think it's really disheartening that Wildish Construction, who most of us are familiar with, have, according to publicly available campaign finance records, contributed significant amounts of money to multiple members who've won races on the LCC board. Additionally, I find it concerning that a small sum of money, not the largest, but $500 is still a decent bit of money, was also spent in a race on behalf of the LCC Foundation, which, to my knowledge, is a separate entity from the college and by extension its board. LCC is an institution of higher learning most people in Eugene Springfield, and hopefully all of us have lots of respect for. It should be beholden to its workers and students and not companies. I'm also familiar with the situation with Richard. I echo the sentiment others have issued, and I urge the board to reconsider their decision. And overall, it feels almost like circular in a way. The same companies, people are all invested in the same races, these elections, and it's honestly disgusting and a bit disheartening to see unfold. That's all. Thank you for letting me comment.
Thanks, Brandon. Joe, one more.
Thank you. And our last one is Richard Royden.
Oh.
All right.
That concludes our public comment.
Great. Thank you all. Next, we'll move on to reports. First, we'll start with the SGA report. President Olson.
Good evening, members of the board. The Student Government Senate has officially gone into recess for the summer, although we do have a few senators joining us over the summer for summer projects. The executive office is still in session. Many of these projects range from pre-planning for fall and a conductive self-audit of the student activity fee, which is being ran by our treasurer of the Senate. The executive office has began meeting and housekeeping duties of the student government room and our policies. We have also met with the new AVP of the college, Dr. Pierre Morton. We're very excited to continue our work with him. For events, we do not have any events planned for the summer term. We are focused on organizing fall welcome weeks will consist of 4 to 5 weeks worth of events. It's quite a busy time for us. In my own personal projects as the president, I have begun a review of our governing documents in the Student Government Association and have begun researching ways to increase campus involvement, which is a symptom that is affecting many institutions in this country.
Thank you, President Olson. Next, we'll move on to the LCC EA report. I don't see Adrian in the crowd. Is she online? Or is somebody else making the report on behalf of LCC?
I don't think we received a report.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. President Olson.
I do believe that we did get an email with the union report from Adrian Mitchell.
We did
And Chair, it's online.
Great. Thank you. So yeah, the report has been presented to the board. Are there any, we can't really ask questions of Adrian, but Trustee Mahoney?
I just wanted to confirm what Board Member Weisman just said, that it is in the board packet online.
Great.
Yes. Yes. If you click on her report, it's there.
Thank you. I think that they have figured out how to get that included in the process. So I appreciate that that's the case.
Thank you both. All right, next we'll move on to the LCCEF. Tammy, please.
Someday I would like to come here and have something.
say. I look forward to that. Okay. Good evening. I've compiled a lot of information that's been on my mind over the past month. I've included almost everything since there's no board meeting next month. I wanted to be sure that you heard it, so it's going to be a little longer than usual. At last month's board meeting, a board member said they didn't like the questions about management's wages and overpay being brought before the board. The board member said that they found it deeply concerning that trustees and committee members were casting doubt on the professionalism and competence of their team, and that they didn't think that we would ever make such comments about other staff like faculty or classified, and that we put questioning to bed, and that we humbly respect their staff and don't disparage them in public meetings and treat them with common respect. This board member referred to the president and her staff as their team, your team. What about the rest of us? I thought we were all in this together. That's what the college is always saying. And to be clear, the board has made it clear over and over that their only staff member is the president, no one else. Additionally, calling out huge salary increases has nothing to do with humbly respecting the president and her team. If the college is doing the right thing, then questioning manager salaries shouldn't be viewed as disparaging them in public or as a lack of common respect. It seems to me that the college is proud of the decisions it's made, and they won't mind the information being asked or answering the questions. Furthermore, the oversight of management salaries and benefits is a core fiduciary duty of the board. The board has a duty of care to hear stakeholder concerns and to exercise due diligence when salary increases are being proposed alongside layoffs and budget cuts. I'm going to talk about the employee wellness program. As you're aware, the college eliminated the coordinator position for the employee wellness program. The coordinator has said that their time in this position has been incredibly rewarding, helping build wellness initiatives that support employee health, morale, connection, and engagement across the college, which I might add is something we really need right now. Employees value this coordinator and feel a great loss at her removal. That said, the employee wellness was cited as unprofitable. 2023, the FTE reimbursement was $130,000. After the M&S, materials and supplies, were removed, that left $129,582. Keep in mind that the coordinator salary that year was being charged through FPE. That, as you'll see, is why it's higher than what's coming. I did a little calculation estimating, and had the OPE and the salary been taken out, that still would have been about $48,000, which is one of the classified positions, quite honestly. In 24-25, FTE reimbursement was $102,972, minus personnel, OPE, and M&S, leaving $18,638. However, for 25-26, the FTE reimbursement was $140,243, minus personnel, OPE, and M&S, leaving $57,000. These aren't huge amounts, but they were profitable. I just learned that this coordinator will be back in the fall to teach employee wellness. Again, how many of those classes? I don't know. Once again, the college is closing the program without due diligence, and now it's being brought back. So everybody gets to panic until it's redone again. Now I'm going to talk about outsourcing, which I do have the contract for that. On June 3rd, at the June 3rd board meeting, I raised concerns about transparency and the employee involvement in the college's recent agreement with Lynn Benton Community College, who would provide institutional research services, including mandatory reporting, analytics, data visualization support for the institutional research department. Under the Memorandum of Understanding, or the MOA, the contract reads that it will commence on the date of signature for the academic year of 26-27 and continue on a fiscal year cycle unless terminated within 90 days notice by either party. Section E of the MOA is the close of contract. It reads that if either party chooses to non-renew, Lynn Benton will, during that 90-day closeout period, provide consultation and transitional support to assist LCC in developing and maintaining its own data systems and institutional research capacity, including guidance related to student and education reporting and analysis, mandatory report, analytics and data visualization, evaluation and accreditation related projects, and mentorship and knowledge transfer to LCC's institutional research team. There's a reason I've listed all those. This reads to me as meaning that Lynn Benton will provide all the services previously listed unless and when either party terminates the MOU. That's when Lynn Benton will hand over the data duties to LCC employees. Interesting. When I asked about it, it was explained to me and several others that the whole purpose was because there was a deadline to make some reports and they needed help. And the newest employee wasn't trained. But it seems to me that that's not the case. Anyways, if you look at the contract, which I realize you don't have one, sorry. In the very first contract that was written and then read it out or redlined, whatever you guys call that, it did say that under the roles and responsibilities, it did say that Lynn Benton agrees to provide consultation and transitional support to assist LCC in developing and maintaining its own data systems and institutional research capacity, including guidance related to students and educational reporting and analysis, mandatory reporting, analytics and data visualizations, like I just read, evaluation and accreditation related projects, and mentorship and knowledge transferred to LCC's institutional research. However, that in the new contract has now been moved down to E, the close of the contract. So it's no longer up above. That's what leads me to believe that that is that's the plan. Okay, so some of the information that's going to be shared with Lynn Benton about faculty, classified managers, and students is social security numbers, date of birth, L numbers, sexual orientation, gender preferences, if it was answered, and grades. Let's not forget, this is FERPA information. It's protected data. If a student's parent or spouse asks us for the same information, we aren't allowed to share it unless student's given permission. But we can give it to another college. Sure, FERPA allows us to contract with another institution to share FERPA protected information. However, there's no guarantee, and we're sharing data with our closest competitor and paying them instead of investing in our own employees. Additionally, this contract in indemnity and hold harmless holds neither side responsible if something happens. So I guess that is protecting both sides, but nobody's responsible. How will our students feel about this? Did we ask them? I don't think so. Now I'm going to talk about Kathy Thomas. She's a classified employee. You also heard what the college is doing to her at last month's board meeting when Kate Sullivan, a faculty member at Lane for 26 years, discussed the treatment of Kathy, who was blindsided by President Bolger refusing to sign a contract to extend her employment after retirement. Kathy relied heavily on the promised part-time position and was informed on May 20th that she'd have to vacate her office and return her laptop by July 2nd, which is tomorrow. And I believe her last day is July 7th. The administration's lack of transparency and care severely impacts Kathy, who had not prepared for this sudden change. Kathy's worked at LCC as LCC's primary data analyst for several years. Last fall, she announced her intention to retire at the end of the academic year. So I met with her so I could get firsthand what's happening and such. So Keith Comer, Kathy's supervisor, was directly involved with President Bolger in securing a part-time contract to extend her work mentoring our new data analyst. Keith wasn't aware of any issues and had planned with Kathy all the items that she was to consult on. These items included continued training for new staff, program review transition, survey design and evaluation, and in-depth analysis of placement and full-year registration. However, on May 28th, the day before the president was to sign off, she refused to sign it without explanation, and instead, on May 28th, signed an MOA with Lynn Benton to handle Lane's state and IPEDS reporting. Imagine her surprise. The costs are approximate and close to equal. Consulting with Kathy was about $67,000, about half-time, plus the experience and institutional knowledge. Outsourcing to Lynn Benton is about $60,000, plus a lot of IT staff time to get data transfers working. The tasks are totally different and have very different skill levels. The reason that LCC is in a difficult position and can't get these reports done on time is because the fact that when Kathy notified them last fall that she would be leaving, they had plenty of time to hire and train a new employee, had it treated it as a more urgent position to fill. Instead, they waited until March 9th, which was the replacement's first day. Then they act surprised that that person doesn't know everything that Kathy knows in 3 months, that she's done it for 10 years. I think you might agree that LCC employees benefit from more training by the person with the in-depth knowledge of the college's data processes. Kathy's given 10 years of her career to Lane. She's been a sole person providing institutional information for several years and has worked long hours to deliver it to those around the college who requested it. You might be asking yourself, why doesn't Kathy just stay a little longer instead of retiring? Well, she'd like to, but she was told her retirement date is irrevocable. Kathy's institutional knowledge is irreplaceable, and I remain dumbfounded as to why the college doesn't recognize her value. So, LCCF has filed a formal grievance against the college for this. I learned about the outsourcing to Lynn Benton on May 20th. I learned from a faculty member and a classified member. At the June 3rd board meeting, we brought it to the board's attention. However, I learned after that the president had signed the contract on May 28th. This timeline is a great example of why Lane classified employees lack trust in our institution and feel there's no transparency in decision-making, which, as noted, was the same in the Gallup survey. And then we were blamed for that, for not being engaged enough. Instead, it could have just acknowledged the backroom deals being made outside with outside institution. And it's also why classified employees don't feel valued by the college, by the college's blatant disregard for what was agreed upon in a classified contract. The documentation I received from my information request on this matter shows that the only people involved in formalizing this MOA are Lynn Benton's president and President Bolger. The emails between them started on May 15th, and President Bolger signed on May 28th. A bit rushed, I'd say. Was anyone else involved in this decision? Not that I could tell from the documents. Are we empowering one person to ethically, financially collapse the entire institution? It appears so. As a result, on June 25th, LCCF filed agreements pursuant to Article 10.3.2, which reads, "A grievance may be initiated by the union at step 3 of the procedure if it involves alleged violation of union rights or is a class action involving employees in several departments. In such case, the grievance shall identify the category of affected employees so as to allow specific identification." This is a union class grievance involving alleged violations of Article 9.2.6, which reads, "To contract or subcontract work. However, the college shall consult with the union on the impact of employees in the unit of such subcontracting of work presently being performed. The consultation with the union would provide an opportunity for discussion of alternatives and for the union to be advised of the college's need to take action. And this Article 9.2 in affecting bargaining unit members, it includes but isn't limited to employees performing or affected by institutional research, reporting, analytics, data visualization, accreditation, evaluation, and related work. And it is affecting classified employees. It's affecting Kathy. If this Lynn Benton wasn't here, there would be no reason not to continue her work here. The union alleges that the college implemented and or began implementing this agreement without fulfilling its contractual obligations to consult the union regarding the impact of the subcontracting and alternatives to subcontracting. Of the 7 requests the LCC is requiring of the college to remedy are: 1, the college shall cease subcontracting bargaining unit work in violation of the collective bargaining agreement, and the college shall immediately suspend further implementation of the Lynn Benton Institutional Research Agreement pending completion of the consultation required by Article 9.2.6. We meet with the college on July 13th. Again, it's the, what is that? It's the result of actions. Nothing was done. The last minute someone's hired. We consult with someone else and someone loses a job. And it was kind of done hush hush and behind doors. It's the continuing process of the college over the last 4 years, almost 5, maybe 5, losing track. Next thing I want to talk about is some manager issues. So I'm just going to start. On June 24th, a classified employee and I met with the college to bring their attention to a racist treatment that they experienced from their supervisor. On July 22nd, I emailed the college noting they hadn't gotten back to us and they said they would, and emphasizing the importance of addressing the problems promptly. An example of what the supervisor said: after a student aggressively approached this classified employee, yelling and throwing things, the manager said, "You were being threatened by a student." The supervisor later said, "It was okay that you were threatened, you're white." Then he said, "Oh, it's not okay for anyone to be threatened, I mean." So he was backpedaling. The supervisor didn't realize the employee wasn't white. They do now. The manager spoke with the student twice, never addressing the violent behavior. On October 8th, the employee shared with the college that their manager had engaged in aggressive behavior and they were extremely fearful of them. I had asked the college whether this had been addressed with the manager. They said they'd asked the manager, but the manager denied it, and that seemed good enough for them. On October 31st of 25, I emailed the college to follow up on a meeting in which I discussed my concerns. I reminded the college that over the past year, the situation with this manager had escalated to a point where the employee was afraid of the manager. On November 19th, 2025, I received an email saying that the manager would submit a space request and move to a new location, as the college had previously agreed. And the employee was still in the same office reporting to the same person. I've attended their weekly one-on-one sessions since October because this employee is afraid to be alone with this person. Fast forward to today, 8 months later. The manager was never moved. The classified employee had to continue sharing space and reporting to the same manager that she's scared of. That was until the college eliminated this employee's position. The employee feels it's in retaliation for this entire situation. This manager has connections to the community and appears to be untouchable. When this employee was presented with the retirement option or being moved to another location or retrenched, as you might be familiar with, the employee chose not to retire. Therefore, she's finally been moved to a newly created position in another department. But it took that to get her to get moved, or him. In another instance with a different manager, May 15th, I filed a bias incident report on behalf of several classified members who were deeply offended by their manager who told racist jokes at a meeting. The jokes were about Black, Italians, Polish people. When called out by one of the employees, the manager responded by saying, I'm messing things up. I'm really bad at telling jokes. The employees didn't file this report themselves out of fear of retaliation from this manager, which they have seen happen to other employees in their department. The college assured me that the bias response team would conduct a thorough investigation. One of the things that was asked to come out of this bias report that I asked on behalf of the classified members was simply that the manager apologized to their team, and acknowledged their inappropriate behavior. So unless, yeah, I hear someone, you had trouble with my jokes, sorry, is an apology, then I guess one was given. We asked that manager not pull team members aside individually to question them about it, as they typically would. The manager did it anyways. On June 10th, I met with the VP of that department, who said the report had been sent to bias response team and the investigation had been closed. I shared with him how the apology was delivered and that the classified employees listed in the complaint were never interviewed for the process. VP said he would investigate it and get back to me. I'm still waiting, and the manager's still here. That is 2 managers who've done or said racist comments that are still here. Now, let's move to the classified. I've only represented 1 classified employee for racist comments since starting as a union officer in 2023. December of 24, an employee was written up for violating college policies and procedures regarding discrimination. He too had said something similar to about a race, and for also failing to uphold duties. This is their first time being written up. I was in all of the meetings, and in the final meeting, it was clear that the termination was heavily based on their action of discrimination. The classified employee had the option to 1, be fired, or 2, quit. Actually, what happened was they were going to fire this person, and they asked if he could quit so that his reputation wasn't tarnished when he looked for another job. So essentially, he got to quit. Where is the equal treatment? I don't see any. We're always saying we treat everybody equally. Everyone's the same. No. And again, this is why people don't come forward. The transparency of the contract is why people don't come forward. Retaliation, that's why I can't get people to come forward. Joining the union, they're afraid they're going to stand out. It's just, how do you turn around the feeling of people who are afraid to speak for themselves? Well, it's not by what we're doing so far. In the last 3 weeks, I've been actively asking employees, classified employees, how they feel. I like to take a little bit of a temperature to see if it's just me or are we all feeling it. So I asked these members how they feel about the decisions made by President Bolger and her team. Again, back to the survey results, this is in alignment with the feelings of classified employees that are on the ground. I'm just going to list what they've said. At least LCC is circling the drain. It's hopeless. Feel deflated, scared, I'm angry. I hate this place. They're manipulative, they're liars. Their words don't mean anything. No longer see what's best for the students. They're untrustworthy. Nothing but lies come out of their mouths. I don't see where we're improving that whole Gallup survey, or the promise to complete, or the dedication to turn it around. It's not happening. The second thing out of most, and I haven't talked to all 500 classified, but I have talked to a group. A lot of these are repetitive responses. However, almost the second thing is, I'm brushing up my resume, it's not looking good. This isn't a great place to be anymore. Breaks my heart that people feel just like a number. They're not appreciated. Nobody cares. We're just going to slash and cut and, oh, well, good luck. That's just how it is. I know there's talk about the groups of the college that have been put together. I'm on one of them to help make decisions and not make decisions. We're not allowed to make decisions. Help share information and ideas of what we think. My first meeting I had, and I would say that most everything's already planned out. So ideas are accepted, decisions are not made. That's not collaboratively working together. And I also want to say that I too was shared the information about the student that was, and I've read the papers of that he was given from public safety to not come on any of the properties of Lane. I know you all have to be aware of this because I've read some documents. I'm just going to piggyback on what the students said for the classified. That removal and telling them they can't come on campus anymore because they talked to somebody in a parking lot or they had opinions. I mean, you all are saying we always want to hear from the students. Do you? I'm not real sure because they have a lot to say. They have feelings. They feel like this place is crashing. So much so that I've had a student come to me. I have nothing to do with students except for in my department, but nothing to share with me an incident with the manager because they were too afraid of retaliation from anybody else on the college. That's how bad it is. So how do we change that? Communication, transparency, take care of the people that stand up, remove the people that do things against the rules of Lane, of our, why do we write stuff up? Why have it there? Why don't we just say, good luck? That's going to be our slogan for Lane. There's not going to be what we think should happen. The people, mission, the vision, mission, core themes. None of it matters as long as things keep going the way they're going. So I don't really know how to end this except for it's depressing to come here. It's depressing to last week every day. I had 4 or more people tapping on my door in my office because they are scared. They don't know what to do. The college is, well, as I said before, slowly dying. They feel like there's one person making all the decisions and nobody else matters. And then we have board members that don't care and they're just whatever she says, agree. I don't know what to tell them anymore. I don't know what to tell them. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Next, we'll move on to President Bolger for the president's report.
Yes, I really appreciate that and appreciate the reports that we've heard. And I will certainly follow up with the board related to those reports. I very much appreciate them. Chair Maldonado and Vice Chair Rust, welcome to your leadership on the board. Look forward to working with you. Summer is a different tone for at Lane, and one of the things that happens in the summer is our summer camps. And so we've got 9th to 11th graders who were on campus for something called Med Splash, which is an introduction to health careers. And later in the summer, we'll have summer camps for middle and high school students. Secondly, I want to talk about our strategic plan development because I have mentioned that before. The process now is that we have issued a request for proposals. We expect to make a selection by September with the proposals coming in during that time in the interim between now and then. And as we're going to be celebrating our folks this summer. We generally do that every year. And in July, we have a Classified Professionals Day celebration. It's coming up later at the end of the month. This is absolutely one of my favorite moments of the year. I say that about this one and also about commencement. Really enjoy that. And finally, I want to welcome some new people to the college. We have Dr. Pierre Morton. He's the Associate Vice President of Cultures and Belonging. We also have Larry Williams, who's the Interim Dean of Health Professions, and Courtney Konopasek, Interim Director of Nursing. And that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Bolger. We'll now move on to the adoption. Oh, Julie, sorry.
Can I ask a question to President Bolger?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I was reading your report, President Bolger, about the new hire of Dr. see if I can get it right, Pierre Morton in the Cultures and Belonging. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood this right, that there's kind of an intentionality around moving away from the initials of DEI because they don't necessarily address culture and they don't necessarily address belonging. Is that, can you tell me a little bit more about that name change?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The position, there was a position open in the college. Certainly, you've heard reports about that. It's called the Associate Vice President for Equity and Inclusion. There was a retirement in that position, and there was a period of time when we were looking at that position to see what we wanted in the college. And so we looked at that and changed the title of that to expand it to Culture and Belonging at first, making it more expansive title so that it is about the entire institution. So that there would be line authority also in this position. So they would have some responsibility, but also some accountability for working with all of us to improve the culture and belonging of the institution. Along the way, the college governance system, I talked to them as well, and they said, well, we want to add an S to culture. And so that's where the cultures came from. Cultures and Belonging, and I will never forget the day, but they said that it was brilliant to actually expand the title and the reach. So Dr. Morton was hired on and started on June 8th, and we're actually delighted to have him here at the college, and the position still reports to me.
Right. Thank you.
Trustee Altucker, do you have something? Okay. We'll now move along to adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move
I actually have a question.
Oh, yeah. We'll start with a question perhaps from Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. On item B, the Wi-Fi cabling and equipment installation. It's kind of a comment, kind of a question. So since the contract is nearly 500,000, which is below the level of requiring a competitive bid process, it looks like, and I could be wrong, but it looks like it's being awarded without a competitive bidding process. So my question is, what evidence does the college have that the proposed price is fair and represents good value for the taxpayers?
Mm-hmm.
Trustee, do you mind? I want to follow procedure here. Is it appropriate for us to pull this agenda item to discuss further, like to hold that question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So then we have a suggestion to remove item B from the consent agenda, correct? Item B, not C. And
item B. Yeah.
Item B. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to double check. So we will remove item B from the consent agenda to discuss further down in the agenda under discussion items or action items?
Action.
Action items. So that'll become item C if that is the prerogative of the board. Any other items to be removed from the consent agenda from trustees?
Point of order, were to be first of the action items or last?
All right, we'll seek the help of our parliamentarian. Should we put that as a new item A or new item C under action items?
It's the board's prerogative. It's been done both ways. Traditionally, it's been the first action item.
All right, we will put it then as item A and shift everything down under action items when we get there. All right, now I will seek a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll move.
So moved by Trustee Weisman. Is there a second?
Sure.
Second by Trustee Matal. All those in favor of the approval of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One opposed.
The motion passes 6-1. All right, we will now move along to the action items. First item on the action items is now the former B of the consent agenda, the Wi-Fi cabling and equipment installation. Dr. Bolger.
Yes, I wonder if we could have Tom Goodhue come to the table and talk to us about this. Thank you, Tom. There was a question I think that one of the trustees had.
Yes, thank you. I'm Tom Goodhue, Capital Construction Manager for Lane Community College. National Network has done a lot of work on campus, so they're very familiar with it. That was one of our starting points. They have competed with all the construction we've been doing under the bond. They have competed through our construction manager GC process. Through many of those have been competitive, not always won, but have often won those. So we find them, their rates were competitive with other comparable contractors. So we've been basing it on that, based on the other work we're doing. They have an extremely strong knowledge of our network and our backbone, which has been a problem with some of the other vendors that have been here. They installed most of it originally, so they understand it. They've been continually working on it. So it saves a lot of the front end time when we have other contractors coming in. So that was the intent of the sole source on this one.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, another question. So now I want you to get your Ouija board and your crystal ball out. Can you talk to the board about the likelihood or kind of the customary experience with this type of construction in terms of change orders? I mean, is this the type of work that typically you find unforeseen conditions, or is it kind of like, yep, we know what it's like, no surprises here?
Well, we have old buildings. So yes, there'll be some routing problems. I think it is one of the reasons we felt more comfortable using somebody who's been in all these buildings. He was able to, the team was able to do an assessment before they put this bid together and look at it. There are, there might be some changes. I think it's just, we have 40 some buildings, a lot of miles of cable to pull.
Thank you.
So.
Saw Trustee Fullnagy's hand.
Yep. Yeah, the other aspect of this, because they are knowledgeable of our dynamics, our buildings, and have worked with us before and so forth, was cyber. That speaks to like even like cybersecurity, like things and positivities in that. Is that a part of the process when you're dealing with, especially anything with tech or IT or in this case, Wi-Fi?
Yeah, certainly. This contract is for pulling wire and installing the devices. The other contract that you just approved is for the devices and all that network.
Exactly.
Certainly, that is a concern that their staff has safety protocol. They have background checks, those types of activities, because they are working in our tunnels, our back of house. They will be in virtually every building in a lot of more sensitive places.
Yes.
Including our childcare and things like that. So yes, that is all part of it, and getting that guarantee, very hard thing to bid because of the nature of the wiring and the poles.
Yeah. So
that also made it very difficult to do a competitive bid in that manner.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was kind of reading between the lines there with the report and the document itself. I'm in favor of this. I will move to approve. Let me get the exact language here. But the Lane Community College Wi-Fi infrastructure replacement project.
There's been a motion. Is there a second to approve?
Second.
There is now a second. Any further discussion? Thank you for answering the questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. We'll now move along to action item B, which is the 2026-27 board calendar. Dr. Bolger.
Oh, yes. The board calendar is in your packet. The details on this, you can certainly take a look at this. I think that we have a couple of meetings that have changed to probably a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. Is that right, Jove? And so you'll see one meeting in April. That has been a regular practice of the board since I've been here to do that in observance of some holidays.
Any discussion? We'll start with Trustee Mittal and then Trustee Altucker.
I know that in the last couple of years, we have checked to make sure that our meetings don't coincide with Jewish holidays. They haven't myself checked to verify that. Just want to ask if the staff has done that.
I think it's the one on the second page, the one that's moved in observance of Passover, but there's one in the fall, and I just want to check in, Joe, to see if we've.
The service, in-service day of September 21st, but it's not one of our meetings, but it's a college meeting that I think it does. That's why it's noticed. That's something, it's in the union contract, so I don't see, I believe, that's why I can't move. I think there's some other contract.
So what Jove is referring to is September 21st, but as you can see, it's a fall all staff in-service day. It's not a board meeting day.
Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. Yeah, I just point out that's the last day of Yom Kippur. And so the folks who are in charge are able to move that date might want to consider that.
Thank you. Any additional questions on this item?
I do, Chair.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Trustee Wiesman?
I just want to know, are we going to get a calendar invites to all these so they just auto port to our calendars so we don't have to get the calendar out in interim?
I think that's the idea.
Joe
Joe.
appears to nod.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
I also look forward to that. Any other questions? Trustee Mohan?
Just seeing the work sessions on the calendar. Some months don't have the work sessions. I find them very valuable to have the regular work sessions. So I would say if we need to have it, add it.
Definitely.
And a couple of them appear to conflict with other things. So if it looks like, I mean, I know when I've gone to ACCT and we have board meetings that we're calling into from the East Coast, we end up being up till, 1 in the morning sometimes or something like that. So just maybe take a look through it. And if you have any recommended changes or requested changes, if maybe we can discuss those next month or our next board meeting as we move into next year.
Absolutely. And I believe over the last year, we've added some work sessions too as needed. And I hope that we are still all amenable to that if needed. So any other questions? All right. I would love to have a motion.
I move to approve the board calendar.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes to approve the 2026-2027 board calendar. Next, we'll move on to appointments to community organizations. I'm reading from the script, so let me read this. LCC has identified a group of organizations for which a member of the board rather, serves as a liaison. Each year, we invite board members to review the list, which has been provided in the board packet today for vacancies and any of those to identify to confirm whether current representatives wish to continue in their roles. So.
Yes. I would love it if somebody took the OCCA.
I was actually going to recommend our new chair be our representative at OCCA if he is willing.
Yeah, I think that seems fitting. I would be happy to do that. As much as I grew up in a family that owned radio stations, and I love attending the KLCC Radio Foundation, but Kara will also speak to this because she also attends. I have a standing meeting at my job, so I cannot actually make those meetings anymore. So if anybody is interested in taking on KLCC, I would be more than happy to pass that along too.
I'll swap you.
That was easy. Unless there is a
You take OCC, I'll take LCC.
Great.
KLCC.
Unless there are any issues from other board members or any interest in either of those.
No issue. Just I confirmed I will be serving still in the legislative committee with OCCA, which exactly. That's any board member can meet and be a part of that process. This is an important legislative session. I think it's great to have you on OCCA's board. Speaking as president, past president, there's some great work ahead of us in 2027. So yeah, I think that would be really prudent to have our board chair as OCCA representative. So
great. Trustee?
Just on that note, if we can get some type of a meeting in the fall regarding our legislative agenda for next year and how we as a board can support that, making sure that OCCA is hearing what our concerns are, and then OCCA is our legislative person generally. Obviously, we have Brett, but we work through OCCA. So anything we can do to get our needs as their requested needs would be good. And then just anything that we can do to support Brett and OCCA in advocating for tax code changes as well as just community college funding next year. I think that, that's an all hands on deck moment and would like to prepare early for that.
Sure. Dr. Bolger, perhaps we can have that conversation in the future about fitting that in work session.
Sure.
Great. Well, with the suggested changes that Trustee Rust and I switch our assignments on the sheet, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Julie.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Julie, please.
It's okay.
I'll
I
get
it.
used to it.
Yeah, you got to look in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
I understand. We're moving past those other appointments. I don't have a problem staying on the LCC and LCOG board at all. I'm enjoying participating in that group.
Great. I guess then I'll ask Trustee Matal if you're all right staying on the foundation.
I'd be happy to.
Great. All right. Seems like we have some consensus. So why don't we make it official? Is there a motion to approve?
I approve the amended Lane Community College Community Organization appointments.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Seeing no further discussion, the motion on the floor, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll now move on to discussion items.
If we're going to have a break, this is probably a good time. So I just want to ask how folks are feeling. Do you want to just folks feel good for another hour, 10 hour, 15 minutes to plug through, or do you want to take a break?
Yeah, I'm ready to speed run this.
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, let's do
Ready
it.
for what?
Discussion items. Just wanted to check if we're going to.
I'm okay.
And by speed run it, I mean follow exactly how many minutes are said on the discussion items per item. So with that said, we'll move on to discussion items. Item A, Student Success Report. I'll pass it to Dr. Bolger.
So we are delighted to present this report this evening. The Student Success Report is the second time that we're bringing a report like this to the board, and I'll ask Dr. Joyce and Dr. Comer to come, and perhaps we can have the slide deck come on up, and please share the report. Given that we are sticking within the 20 minutes, you might want to take about 10 minutes so that the board has time to discuss.
I will say that clock,
Hey.
it just looks at you right in the eye and judges.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Do you want to the events?
Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Do you want the events? All right. Especially look at us. Okay, well, good evening, Board of Education, President Olson, President Folger. Thanks for having us tonight. Dr. Cohen and myself are going to talk about our latest student success report. So if we can move to the first slide there. I'll start with this one. This slide is about unduplicated headcount, meaning individual students per year. And this is credit, College Now, and non-credit. And if you look at the lines there, I think it's pretty clear the colors. Non-credit courses, for example, I'll just explain them a little bit. They could be community education courses. Say we offer maybe a Cottage Grove or Florence or downtown campus. They could be in yoga, winery tours, certifications. But we also have certificates like massage therapy, which are also non-credit. And a number more. And then what you can see from this presentation is there was a long-term decline from academic year 2012 to academic year 2022. However, in the past few years, we did overcome that some. The College Now, the blue line, shows a head count that's fairly stable. With an initial sign, perhaps, that the Oregon high school demographic slope, an expected decline in high school graduates between 2026 and 2043. We're looking at possible, the estimates are a 19% decline over that time. I've seen those change over the years, though. Sometimes area might boom, people move in and that changes, but that's what we're looking at now. For non-credit, the gray line there, this tends to shift during periods of broader economic issues. So like the 2008 recession, you see or like the COVID period as well. And then for credit headcount, the red line shows gains every year in the past 4 years. And we move past the academic year 2021 figure. Do you want to take the next slide? Okay, all right.
Here we're looking at the estimated FTE since 2008. Okay, and so for Oregon, FTE or full-time enrollment equates, we have a formula, 510 clock hours classroom or something equivalent. And basically that means 15 or so classroom hours each week for 34 weeks. Okay, or a full-time credit load is 45 credits per year in terms of progression towards completion. But in terms of financial aid access, it's 36 credits per year. But here we're looking at basically an equivalent here would be 45 credits per year for an FTE. And FTE generally parallels headcount, although non-credit contributes substantially less, because in Oregon, we're only allowed to have courses in adult basic education, as in GED prep, English as a second language courses, workforce training, non-credit occupational courses leading directly to job skills, registered trade apprenticeships, and health and safety instruction to count those towards FTE. So it's a very small level of things that we can include in that factor. So on this chart, we have the same colors. College Now is the blue line. FTE has been fairly stable, but as with headcount this year, we're seeing what may be a signal of perhaps some of that high school demographic change for the coming couple of decades. Remains non-credit, as in the gray line there. It's been slow to recover, but it's risen each of the last 4 years. And for that credit FTE, the red line, again, gains every year for the last 4 years. And this year we moved higher than academic year 2021 and have been remaining there.
This slide, credit enrollments by term and academic year, excluding College Now. And okay, this one. These refer to the number of individual credit course enrollments each term. Each enrollment will involve one or more credits. In this chart, you'll see the sum of terms are on the bottom, and then we're stacking fall, winter, and spring. And so you can see that pretty clearly. College Now isn't included here because the final data for those enrollments is just being submitted and processed right now. We should have that soon enough. Also with credit FTEs and credit headcount, that's the total individual student credit enrollments, have also risen in each of the last 4 years. There can be variation by term. For example, if you look at summer terms in academic year 23 and 24, both were lower than in academic year 22. Last was lower than in spring 25. Yet this shows a growth of 19.2 over the 4 years since COVID in individual student credit enrollments.
Next couple of slides, what we're trying to do is look at what students are taking each term during the main part of the academic year, because they take less in the summer. So we're looking at fall, winter, and spring each year since AY 2020. Okay? And this doesn't include College Now because, of course, if you're in high school taking courses, you're taking far fewer credits on average. But these averages show us a couple of things. Okay, our average credits per student per term are below both the 15 expected for a full-time progression towards a degree and the 12 needed for financial aid eligibility. That indicates the majority of our students, as we know, but this is another way of looking at it, are studying part-time, not full-time here. One of the shifts in student enrollments that we're seeing develop in this past year involves number of credits students are taking and when they are taking them. So in AY 2020 and previously, we have smaller steps and a more consistent credit load across the year for most students. Since then, what we've been seeing is larger steps down in enrollment per student averages each term. They're not gigantic, but they are steps down. Since COVID, those shifts have been more pronounced, okay? And we're working up an analysis to see, especially with regard to that fall intake, because fall really determines who we have for the entire year. If we can see anything about the students who are leaving us and what that might say for some ways to try and address that and keep them here longer and help them progress towards a degree more effectively.
This graph shows the students' yearly term average credits attempted. And if you look at this one, these yearly term averages of credits attempted indicate there tends to be some year-to-year variation in students' average credits per year, with a slight declines in 4 of the past 7 years, and that will be academic year 21, academic year 22, 24, and again this last year. This year's average is an additional indicator of a broader shift in Lane student enrollments. Lane is attracting more individual students every year, though they're tending to be taking less credits overall.
The next slide looks at our fall cohort start and fall to fall retention as we started this fall. How many stick around for the next year? And so what we're seeing here, this is disaggregated by demographic. We do have a fair bit of variation in these different groups. The one thing that we do see that tends to be where we're at for the most part is for our larger demographic cohorts, generally speaking, it's 50 to 55% retention rate from year 1 to year 2. And it's slightly below, but generally on track with national averages. It's an area we're definitely working on trying to improve all kinds of ways, but that's something we want to work with in a lot of ways to see what progress we can make in those things. The smaller demographic groups that we have here, which you can actually see directly in terms of how much fluctuation you get on a year-to-year basis in the retention rates, which parallel success rates in courses. Those shifts are really partly because of the fact that the ends are so small, a few people make a very big difference in the percentage rates.
This slide shows our students who are receiving Pell grants and those not receiving Pell grants, and it's broken up the top area by full-time and the bottom area by part-time. And what you can see from this one is those with no Pell Aid over the past years, you can see that they do not succeed at a much higher rate, particularly part-time. We see that with students anyway, part-time, but if we're seeing that for sure. It seems to be one of the contributing factors behind course success and course retention, whether you're full-time or part-time, and that we're seeing students progress with Pell grants at a higher level, and they're the ones who are full-time are definitely more likely to succeed and progress at higher rates.
This one's a little bit complicated to look at to begin with, so I want to break it down a little bit here. It's not quite so bad after all. So enrollments, as before, refer to the number of individual course enrollments per term. So a student takes 1, 2, 3, 4 course enrollments. The credits attempted depends obviously on how many credits are attached to each one of those course enrollments. Unduplicated headcount, which you've seen before. The reason it's unduplicated is because from a term-to-term basis, we want to make sure who we're looking at in each term, okay? Because some students in summer will continue to fall, or maybe through the whole year. Some won't start until fall and will continue for winter and spring. Just trying to figure out who's who. Looking at these things, one of the things that we see is that we've been attracting more students that have supported gains in all areas, but one term with respect to individual course enrollments, credits attempted, and estimated FTE. The outlier here is spring. Some slippage there in spring. We're looking at trying to see if there's some contributing factors there.
And this is the last slide of the presentation. So this is total enrollment, academic year 25 versus 26, all terms combined without college now. And in comparing these 25 to 26 indicators, shift between an increasing number of students who are on average, you can see in headcount FTE, headcount we are having more students, but they're taking a smaller number of credits, and you'll see a slight decline with that in the total number of course enrollments. Yet the increase of individual students has still led to FTE gain and again in the total credits attempted. We're attracting more students each year at the end of it. And this year, our students enrolled in fewer credits per person, however, because of some of the reasons might be financial, there might be employment, family related, or other external pressures for sure. And also the post-COVID, post-secondary student experience is seeing a different transition, a higher learning environment amongst our students. I think at this point, we are definitely up for questions if you have any.
Great. I'm going to go President Olson, and we'll go kind of this way down the line.
I'm going to try and make my question make a little sense because I'm trying to understand this. Can we go back to the slide that was about part-time students?
This one?
No, not that one, the other one. I think it was that one. Yes. So we see that the attempted credits have realistically gone down. I won't say by much, but it's been going down. And I was curious if we know why, and I think you said a little bit there that it's because of family reasons, money reasons, all kinds of different things, and then something about just higher education being different now at post-COVID. Do we think that students taking less credits per term, is that negatively impacting their education or the college? Like, are we getting any negative impacts by that lower attempted credits?
I would say that students taking less credits are much less likely to, if they're part-time, less likely to progress and persist to get the credential or degree that they're looking for. The success rates are definitely lower for part-time students versus full-time students. But with some of those contributing factors, it's the only way some students can attend college. And I know in our advising and our college achievement coaches, we do try to work with students one-on-one with what's going on in their life, what the responsibilities are and whether they can do that. But and we do our staff do try and encourage students who are able to take more credits if they can. But I think what we have seen is sometimes I think COVID has had an impact also on student body and I think how they're coming to higher education has changed a lot over time.
Do we plan to do like a conductive review of why students might be taking part-time, like getting some raw numbers?
Yes, actually, we've gathered a number of questions and we're looking at adding them in a survey to see, what those are students likely to take more credits. What are the situations going on? Things like that.
We are looking to have a pretty large scale student engagement survey this fall in connection with SGA.
Awesome.
So that's going to be something that we try and get more information about that on. In terms of the previous stop out survey, as the students who left, response rate wasn't high, which is not surprising in the case with those kinds of surveys. But certainly the single most important factor for people to respond was financial.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Olson. We'll go to Trustee Mittal, then we'll go Trustee Altucker, and then we'll go Trustee Weisman, and then Trustee Mulholland.
Thank you. I know we started year-round enrollment some recently the last couple of years, and then we see it on the same slide, right? That what is this one? The average credits attempted drops from fall to winter to spring. And are you looking at all at the connection between year-round enrollment and how it correlate or how it might impact that drop-off?
We're not seeing any indications of that. And in fact, we see more students registering early for future terms. And then that allows us as well with our staffing to be able to focus on those ones who haven't registered rather than everybody every term. So it is helping us that. And I don't know if you've gotten
It's really too early to see if that's had an impact on the total number of enrollments people are taking and total number of credits people are taking.
Yeah.
Because they've only had basically a year
Of doing that.
so far, summer and the start of fall.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of sounds like perhaps those who are doing it are enrolling for similar numbers of credits per term. Those who aren't, maybe that's the issue. This is a, I have two other quick questions. Is the Oregon Promise program available to part-time students? Or do you have to be a full-time student to get the value of that, get the benefit of that?
I'm not sure, and I think you can do it. Well, but I have to check, so.
Yeah, one thing guess I'd be interested if other board members also support this to see in this report going forward, right? You shared with us the Pell Grant impacts. We have heard that our students are not taking full advantage of the Promise program, and perhaps it would be interesting to see that information. To what extent are our students taking advantage of that? And then, of course, if it looks like they're under that there's more opportunity than they're taking advantage of, that might be a place for us to support students. And that rolls into my last comment, which I've said previously. I'll just say it again, right? This trend has been shared with us multiple times now, right? More students, but fewer credits per student. And at some point, we have to start asking ourselves, why are we trying to encourage them to take more credits? I get that more credits seems to translate to better performance. That's the party line. I get that, but they're telling us something different. And at some point, we have to start thinking about meeting them where they're at. I'm not suggesting you don't do that. I don't mean to suggest that, but are our policies, our programs, et cetera, supporting those who, for whatever their reasons are taking fewer credits? How do we adapt and meet them where they are at? Is a question I just hope that we're, simultaneously asking. Maybe this is a temporary trend. Maybe this is a thing they get over. Maybe finding ways to encourage them to take 15 credits instead of 9 is better for them, and maybe not, And so I guess we should hold both of those things in our mind simultaneously until we can figure that one out.
Yeah, and we're going to be able to gather a lot more information about that. But when it comes to Oregon Promise, we do track the percentage of students coming from our high schools and how many get Oregon Promise to continue with our college. And part-time is available for Oregon Promise. And so I just wanted to just confirm that. But I think we could, I would like to do a presentation on Oregon Promise as well.
I would love that. Yeah.
I think too that one of the complications there is some of the impetus to try and get students to continue or to enroll in more credits, not only is with regard to better progress towards completion, but there's certainly also an increasing pressure from the federal government. It looks like from Oregon as well, to try and push that pattern.
Thank you. That's a
further.
very good point. I appreciate the point.
Anything? I'm going to say we add 10 minutes because I don't think we should kid ourselves that we'll get it done in 5. So we'll do 10. And if we go faster, we'll go faster. But I got Trustee Altucker.
Thank you, Chair. I actually have 7 questions, but I'm not going to ask 7 questions. I'm going to ask 1 question, and then I'm going to ask the president if it's appropriate for me to submit the questions that I didn't ask as kind of an information request. Is that?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. So my question that I want to ask here is Black student retention remains substantially below other groups. What specific interventions are either underway or proposed, and how will the board know if they're working?
Okay, so I would say in response to that, I think our approach in the administration right now, I think we clearly are showing that with the hiring of our Associate Vice President of Culture and Belonging, that we're putting more attention to not just the Black students, but Latina students, where we're looking at the different groups on campus. And so actually I just had Pierre in my office, and we're going to be meeting every 2 weeks to discuss how we can work with Multicultural Center, Gender Equity Center, and the different groups and student affairs to work on the recruitment and retention of those students more effectively. And I think having Pierre in that role is going to bring us a lot more success amongst those groups, Black students especially.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. I have Trustee Weisman next, and then Trustee Mulholland.
Thank you, Chair. So when I looked at that slide that President Olson brought up on the part-time students, I see the slide goes from 2020 to 2026. And with the exception of 2020 or 1920, the trend is clear. It's just year over year, the same exact trend. It has very little variation. So what did it look like? What did this 5 year, I guess it's 5, 6 years, look like in before 2019? So, or before 2020. So, 2020 affected a lot of things, and we are seeing it in the high schools, we're seeing it in enrollment. So what did our college look like in the previous few years before this? Did the same kind of trends happen then? And kind of to Steve's point, if this is a trend year over year, that it's up in fall and down in winter and down in spring, and these numbers are pretty much staying static, then what is it that we're trying to fix? Because clearly that's the trend that's been in place for many, many years. So I'd like to see how this compares to the previous 5 years, maybe, to just see if that trend was flat like it was in 2019 and 20, that it looked like that. I find that to be a outlier because of 2020. So that would be just my thought about this, because it is, I remember having to be on scholarships, and 9 units got me some scholarships, but 12 units was 12 credits rather. I had to meet that in order to get my financial aid. So I can get that there's some differential, but it would be nice to see some comparison. So thank you.
Thank you, trustee. Trustee Mulholland.
Thank you. A couple things I just wanted to follow up on, and then probably do some more follow-ups after this meeting. Can we go to the enrollment by year, FTE? And then after that, actually, let's go to that one, the by term, actually.
This one?
So can you remind me, what is so we're looking about 80 students on 5,000. So that's what, about 0.4% growth in FTE? Does that sound right? About 0.5%? Just under?
What period?
For FTE?
In what?
In credit?
From what years?
From 25 to 26. This year's enrollment growth from last year was about 0.5% FTE growth, just under.
Sorry, that's in the last slide. So it's from last year, this year, FTE is up 1.8%.
Okay, that appears different than the numbers we were shown in that graph. So maybe just a follow up on that discrepancy.
Sure.
And then if we could go to the by term numbers, I think that's probably the one we should probably look at, actually. Okay, so yeah. So it looks here like we actually had, and maybe there's a percentage one as well that showed the percentages, but it looks like we had actually pretty strong growth in fall term. And then in winter, we were essentially flat, but that spring term, we're way down, like 7% compared to last year. Do you have thoughts on why we had this significant drop off in spring term this year and didn't have that growth in winter? Is there any, 7% seems big compared to where we started the year. So I'm just wondering, do you have thoughts on what happened to have this larger than expected decrease in spring term?
I think that's, Keith and I were talking earlier, and we've already decided we're going to do like a post-op on the spring term because it was so different versus the other years. We did see a significant decrease. So we've got to try and figure out the whys on that one. We don't have the details yet, unless you've got any response.
I think we just could come back to.
Yeah, I don't want to assume right now or make assumptions.
Okay, gives me a little bit of heartburn for next year of, what happened and, how do we rely on our growth targets and things like that. So then if we could talk about college now for a moment, try and go relatively quick. So we're down a little bit from last year, basically flat since 2022. This is an area where the high schools teach the students and we award the credits, but we get state funding though we don't do most of the work. I wonder, what opportunities are there to continue to partner with our high school partners to expand this, revenue sharing, other ideas. Obviously I'm anything we can do to get more free credits in the hands of graduating high schoolers so they can get a degree for, low or zero cost is a good thing in my opinion. So I would love to have another work session just about our partnership with K-12 and what we're doing to work with them and really support what they're trying to do and partner them to the extent feasible. And then could we just talk about, go to the retention slide one more time?
This one?
No, the one that was like 50% to 53 to 55% for each group.
The demographic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Segregated.
Yes, I continue just to be shocked every time I see these numbers of a 50% approximate fall to fall retention rate. And just anything we can do to step back and really think, how can we really design the college experience so that we're bringing in people that are really dedicated and committed to finishing, and that we are supporting them at every stage in making that happen. It might be that maybe we bring in less students, but the students that come, they stay and they're successful, and we retain them throughout the entire time. And that we really need to focus on serving every student that we bring in to the greatest extent feasible. And I get that these are, in line with national numbers. But yeah, anything we can do to kind of step back, think outside the box. How can we really incentivize and encourage our students to get done in a timely manner, not take credits that they don't need, not detour through 3 different degree programs, just really get them set when they start and provide that support throughout. Not a critique in any way, just shocks me every time I see that this is what that we have students that sign up, they take classes, they pay for those classes, they take out debt for those classes, and then they never get a degree. It's very disheartening. So I just thank you for your work on this.
Definitely do that. And also I'll work with Dr. Bulger as well about future presentations based upon some of the questions we've been asked tonight. I did want to follow up with Trustee Altucker as well. We do have a Black student faculty member who works in the Multicultural Center, Dr. Lawrence, and he also has had a program that works with male Black students because they struggle at a high rate to persist than female Black students as well. So that's one of the other things that's being worked on over the last few years. But we do have room for growth there for sure, more success.
We'll go to President Olson, and in the spirit of the World Cup, we'll do some stoppage time here. We'll do President Olson and then Trustee Rust.
I just wanted to give an unofficial response to Steve's question about the Oregon Promise. I'm a recipient of that, as well as the Oregon Opportunity Grant and the Pell Grant. These grants are available to a little bit to students who are under 12 credits. It's the federal government and the Oregon state government begin to factor the amount of money they're giving to you based on the amount of credits. So once you drop below 12, they start to undercut the amount of money that you're receiving for your education, because in the minds of them, you don't need that much money anymore. And then I think a little bit to what some other board members have said is that we're concerned about this retainment of students. And I feel like that we keep wanting to look at our numbers from back in 2012 when everything was peachy and great and we had a high enrollment and we were doing so well. And I'm concerned for this because much of the nature and culture around college, at least from the student perspective, has changed post-COVID era. And I think a big piece of that is students being able to afford college, and then also the mental health wellness of our students who are leaving high school and entering our education system. That's all I wanted to say to that matter.
Thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, I joined Zach in his K through 12 call. I got to go to the Willamette High School public forum, and I had student after student tell me that they're going to LCC this fall. And so I really do think working with every single high school and private school in our county is one of the strongest things that we can do. And from the evidence, the anecdotal evidence I got at Willamette, something's working out there, because there's a lot of them going to LCC, as well as Oregon State and University of Oregon.
Thank you. Yeah, our recruiters do visit every school in Lane County and beyond for fairs. And we have a high school counselor luncheons on campus that come all day from all over Lane County. So
Yeah.
we've got really good relationships
Yeah,
and
that's good.
we really focus on that.
Great. Any further questions? All right. Thank you all so much.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Now move along to discussion item B, which is the student involvement in the budget committee. I'll pass it to trustee Fullnagy to introduce it.
Hi there. Yes. First off, thank you so much. And I'm happy to speak on this matter, but there seems to be an error on the subject matter. The original request was for this to be in regards to legal counsel and reviewing of the contract. I have an email from the president. We exchanged emails back and forth to collaborate on the setup of this agenda. And on the 24th and 25th, we agreed we would add this on the agenda, that being the legal counsel and its contract. I don't know exactly what happened, but as soon as the error happened, meaning that this topic was there instead of the legal counsel one, I emailed stating that. So obviously we adopted the agenda. We've obviously the subject matter before us is the student. Let me read that exactly. The student. Oh my goodness. And I closed that page. Having a student member on the budget committee. But in regards to what I originally requested in coordination and collaboration with the president, I think it'd be addressed by just simply sharing the contract with the board of our legal counsel so that we would have a chance to review it. We are allowed to request seeing contracts that are
Point of
paid
order,
for by
Chair.
dollars of the public.
Trustee
order.
Eastman, yes, please.
I can appreciate that this, whatever might happen, but this is not the agenda that we are on. So can we handle this matter in a different way and discuss the agenda item that we have? Thank you.
I'm more than willing to bring this back up during
Sure.
questions and
Yeah,
comments.
I appreciate that. We will, yeah, why don't we, since this is what was placed on the agenda and what was approved, we will, so point taken. Trustee Weisman, I appreciate that. Bring this up in
Board comments and questions.
That'd be
I'd be
great.
happy to do that. Absolutely.
So with that in mind, do you have anything to add to this agenda item?
100%. Yes. First off, so our first conversation around this was in regards to the board policy 2015. You can pull that up under board policies. And the specific language around this is that the ex officio non-student board member are allowed to attend all regularly scheduled meetings. The SGA president is not expected to attend other meetings and sessions unless deemed appropriate by the board chair. So that is essentially the grounds of our first conversation of when we were talking about adding the students to the budget committee. I believe that was in April, but it might have been in the May board meeting. Essentially, that's where this all derives from. When I spoke to Klamath Community College and Portland Community College, they have a student on the budget committee. They utilize their policy essentially to allow for that. There was a vote, obviously, at the budget committee to go ahead and add a student as an ex officio member so they could participate in our last budget committee meeting, which I'm really glad and I'm really proud that the budget committee did that. That being said, though, per our own board policy language, it does look like that per the chair, if the chair is okay with that they can attend a budget committee meeting and act in their ex officio stance. The same thing in regards to board policy 2010, that essentially states the exact same things, that the powers of an ex officio member, the duties and responsibilities of an ex officio member transfers into budget committee processes. The HEC hasn't had any decision or any opinion on whether or not to block a student from participating in budget committee processes if there's a board policy in place that allows for them to attend if it's not an expectation. So overall, I believe that current board policy allows for students to be able to attend budget committee processes and meetings. That being said, I know that in our last budget committee meeting, it was directed by the motion to bring this back to the board. We can go ahead and update our policies to include language that would make it very clear that the student body president or the student ex officio member is allowed to attend budget committee meetings. I do state, though, that there is nothing that is necessarily preventing us per our own board policies I haven't seen anything either in revised statutes. I know that was a concern that was brought up in I believe the second meeting that we discussed this at the board meeting, that it's a budget committee matter and not necessarily a board matter. But that being said, though, per the board policies that are in place currently, it would allow for a student to participate in budgetary meetings and processes. So with that, I think that's a good starting point for the conversation. I think like a good thing to kind of like figure out is if we want to state that this board policy allows for that process, or if we need to pass board policies to allow for students to be at the table, which is a very important table to be at, which is the budget that's impacting their college and their everyday experiences as students. I really look forward to this conversation. I think it's really critical that we have students at the tables, at every table, to be honest, ranging from the Budget Subdevelopment Committee to here at this boardroom.
Appreciate that. Trustee, I have Trustee Mulholland, Trustee Altucker, and then we'll go to President Olson.
I am supportive of this. If the student trustee would like to attend our budget committee meetings, more than happy to have them. And so just happy to affirm that I am supportive of that. If we need a rule change, happy to do that too. If maybe the board chair wants to work with President Bolger and our generally, we have a particular staff person that I think works to develop our board policies and work with that individual to either add a note that says, note this is allowed, or to change things as necessary, that I would be supportive of that. Look forward to hearing what our student government president has to say.
Great. Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. Echoing what Trustee Mulholland said, I'm pleased to see that this is a discussion item. This is the process that should be happening. And I would say a next step, and I would be very comfortable with some representative from the board, whether it's the chair or whomever, work with the president. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for the board to work with the president of the college, who is responsible for students. The board should not overstep our responsibilities and just make this happen without working hand in hand and alongside the president. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. President Olson.
The Executive Office of the Student Government Association had a feeling that this was going to get added to the agenda. So before the Senate went into recess during a work session, we did ask for their opinion about this. And I have a section that I think the Senate would like to be read and some comments about it. The Senate has expressed that they do appreciate the chance to be involved in the Budget Committee as well as the Student Government Association as a whole. But we would like to highlight the fact that we were not consulted prior to my appointment to the Budget Committee, nor was I or any executive office or anybody in the Student Life and Leadership Department who advises us were consulted about this appointment. We had also asked the president prior to that meeting about whether or not there was a plan to have the student ex officio member to be added to the Budget Committee, and we were told pretty concisely no. I'd like to highlight that at that meeting, I did protest my involvement without prior involvement, and the Student Senate has also highlighted the fact that they are okay with the possibility of a student ex officio member being added to the Budget Committee, but if it is put on their terms. I do appreciate the board members in involving other community colleges and how they took part this process, but nobody to this point has involved the Student Government Association and how they would like this process to be taken. Nor where have we been involved in how we would like to do this, how we would have to change and adjust our governing documents to be able to adjust the capacity of adding people. And then we've also have added that we are concerned that the president or any of the executive officers are being spread too thin already by the amount of representation that we are on college councils, as much of it is catered to employees having paid time to be able to attend these councils. Students are still students first, and we don't get time. We don't get to control our time the same way that employees or other members of the college community can.
Thank you, President Olson. Trustee Weisman.
Thank you, Chair. To President Olson's point, and also to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Trustee Falnegi was saying, is that the current policy, given its recognition of students' time and representation, has allowed, it actually has language that says that the student trustee can attend our committee meetings. So other meetings, they can participate. By no means is it required. We don't want to make it, official, like it's a process that has to happen. And so I would welcome the students to kind of maybe suggest language about that, but the way the policy is written right now, the way I read it when I first saw it, was that it took into account that students are students first, and that the student trustee is a student first. And if they want to and have the capacity to do so, they can attend other meetings, ad hoc committee meetings, they can attend special meetings, all that type of stuff. So, however, with that said, Sophie, one of our previous trustees, had proposed in her term, it never went anywhere, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but that that whole policy be reviewed by the student government, have them propose any language changes or anything and bring it back to the board for consideration. I could probably dig around somewhere and find that email, but she did send an example and some stuff that was done. So I am 100% in favor of having the student government participate in how they want to participate in the governing process of the board and the college. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, trustee. We'll go to President Bolger really quick. Yeah, please.
This is something that I can take on for the board and have a conversation with our student government association leadership about this, and just to see if this is something that they would be interested in, is having codified in policy as a recommendation or not. I've been hearing just the discussion by the board, and there's a little bit of varying opinion about that. So I can certainly take this on for the board.
Great. Thank you. Trustee?
Excellent. Yeah, no, wherever there's opportunities to collaborate, obviously with the president and the president's office in regards to board policy, and of course with student government. I went back to that first meeting when I brought this up, and President Olson, you did indicate that you have to take it back to SGA first, but that you are interested, was the quote. But that's where I was deriving that from. That all being said, again, there is no obligation for a student to be there. The purpose of this language and the purpose that this language has, back when I passed it at Klamath Community College, back when we passed it here, that it is up to the student if they would like to attend, if they want to be there. And if they want to be there and be a part of those conversations, which are really important conversations that impact the daily lives of students, that they have every right to be there. And that's what I was doing and bringing that up in that first meeting in April. With that, that is just the main aspect of this. If there is language changes to this policy that would allow for even greater access for students to the governance of our college, 100% in support of it. I want it. I want that the students to have those options and opportunities. I don't want it to be forced upon any student. I don't want it to be just another obligation. If students want to be at those tables, which we've been hearing a lot from students who have advocated for that we want to be at the table, that we want to be a part of the discussion. And that's where the spirit of all of this is about. Yeah, so with that, yeah, that's the main reason behind this discussion. That's the main reason for bringing it up. And yeah, I hope that we can do a collaborative effort with this SGA to update this language, to change this language, as long as it increases access of students' abilities to be a part of governance. I'm all for it.
Thank you, trustee. President Olson.
I have one last point I want to put towards this, and I think it's just a overall summary of the Student Government Association's position when it comes to this. We are all for student inclusion and having seats at these tables, but to include us, you have to include us. We talk about the process, and we're talking about my interests that I expressed in that meeting, but we're not talking about the Student Government Association's interest or the Student Government Association's involvement, or even the greater student body of Associated Students of Lane Community College involvement in this. And it's direly important that we don't go off of the word of just one person. We go off of what I've been saying on behalf of the Student Government Association. And yes, I understand I might have expressed interest, but the Student Government Association has spoken on this matter, and I think we should leave it there.
Excellent. Next steps, Chair.
Sounds like next steps best would be to work with President Bolger and have her work with Student Government Association and figure out how we can come back to this. And I know there's a larger conversation to be had about board policies also coming up, and perhaps if it fits there, it fits there, but we'll pass this to the president and have her work from there. If that sounds good to you, Dr. Bolger.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, we will now move along to the next discussion item, which is ethics training and affirmation. President Bolger.
Yeah, this is our, because this is the organizational meeting, we have annual ethics training and affirmation. I believe that there's something for each board member to sign this evening. And so I'm going to have Brett Rolette run through this slide deck. Many of you have seen this already, but this is a refresher. Brett?
Good evening. Thank you, Chair, Presidents Bolger and Olson, members of the board. Each year, Board Policy 2715 requires that each board member sign the annual affirmation statement acknowledging that you've received, read, understand, and agree to the following board's code of ethics. Much of what you'll hear tonight is going to serve as a refresher. Most of you completed this training last year, so the goal is simply to revisit the key principles and remind everyone of their responsibilities as public officials and board members. Each board member has been provided with a copy of Board Policy 2715 and the annual affirmation statement. Before you leave this evening, please make sure you sign the affirmation statement, leave it with Jove, so it can be included with the official meeting minutes as required by the policy. Board Policy 2715 establishes the ethical expectations for board members. It reminds us that board members are expected to act in the best interests of the entire community, ensure transparency and comply with Oregon's public meetings law, avoid conflicts of interest, exercise authority only as a board, not individually, communicate through appropriate channels, treat one another with respect and civility, stay informed and prepared, and maintain confidentiality when required, such as during executive sessions. The policy also outlines the process for addressing allegations of board member misconduct, should that become necessary. In addition to our board policy, every elected board member is also considered a public official under Oregon law. That means you're personally responsible for complying with Oregon's ethics laws. Fortunately, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission provides excellent guidance, advisory opinions, and educational resources. One of the best pieces of advice that I can offer, which is from our former legal counsel, is if you're ever unsure, ask. The Ethics Commission is very helpful, but it's always easier to answer a question than it is to resolve a problem that you might find yourself in. There are three concepts I want to touch on briefly tonight. The first is personal responsibility. Each board member is individually responsible for complying with ethics laws. You cannot claim that you didn't know better before you did something illegal. You are expected to know your responsibilities. The second is financial gain. Oregon law prohibits public officials from using their position for financial benefit, not only for themselves, but also for relatives or businesses for which they're associated. The third is gifts and honoraria. Generally speaking, there are restrictions on accepting gifts valued over $50 from someone who has a legislative or administrative interest in the college. The resources provided include additional detail and examples if you'd like to review them. All right, conflicts of interest. This is one of the areas that causes the most questions. Oregon law distinguishes between two different types of conflicts. A potential conflict of interest exists when your decision could affect those financial interests. An actual conflict of interest exists when your decision would affect the financial interests of you, a relative, or an associated business. The difference between would and could is important. And the next few slides, I'm sure you remember, provide an example. In this first example, the board's developing a bid criteria for a new gym, and the board member's son owns a construction company that might eventually submit a bid. At this stage, there isn't a direct financial impact yet. However, because the board's actions could influence a future bidding process, this represents a potential conflict of interest. Let's move one step further. The bids have been submitted and the board is selecting a winning contractor. One of those bids belongs to a board member's son's company. At this point, the board's decision will directly affect the company's financial interest. This has become an actual conflict of interest. Finally, here's an example where no conflict exists. Suppose a contractor happens to be a board member's close friend or neighbor, but there's no family relationships or business associations involved. Because Oregon's ethics law focuses specifically on financial interests involving the official, relatives, or associated businesses, that situation would not constitute a conflict of interest. And all of these are from examples provided by the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. So if you do encounter yourself in a conflict, the process is pretty straightforward. Both actual and potential conflicts should be publicly announced before discussion and before voting. With a potential conflict, you may still participate and vote after making the disclosure. With an actual conflict, you must publicly announce the conflict and refrain from participating in discussion and voting unless your vote and participation is legally required for a quorum. There is flexibility, especially on smaller boards like ours, to provide that even when there are actual conflicts. When in doubt, it's always appropriate to consult College Counsel or the Ethics Commission beforehand. Final topic is Oregon's public meeting law. The guiding principle is simple. Public business should be conducted in public. The law requires governing bodies to deliberate openly, provide appropriate public notice, and conduct meetings that are accessible to the public. This also serves as a good reminder to avoid discussing board business when a quorum of board members happens to be together outside of a meeting, whether it's at a social event, conference, or gathering. When conversations begin moving towards board business, it's usually a good idea to pause and wait until the matter can be discussed during a properly noticed meeting. I will close by mentioning that in the packet you've received, there's several additional resources. They're also linked online for folks watching us on YouTube. It includes a ethics guide for public officials, relevant Oregon statute, administrative rules, the board's own code of conduct, and the annual affirmation statement. The important thing is to recognize that when a question may exist, seek guidance early and continue conducting the board's work with integrity, transparency, and the best interests of Lane Community College and our community. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. Can you explain the difference between conduct that clearly violates Oregon law and conduct that may not violate Oregon law, but does clearly violate our own board policy 2715? Are there instances that could happen? How should board members think about those two standards?
You, as a board, you set policies and set expectations for yourselves and each other. It's kind of up to the board to police each other on those expectations. When a fellow board member is accused of violating or not complying with one of the policies, the policy explains the process for how to proceed. If there is an actual violation of state law, depending on what it is, at that point, I guess it depends on the actual situation, whether it would be appropriate to involve the state or local law enforcement. Kind of tough to comment, not knowing what the exact situation is.
Thank you.
Trustee.
Yep. Just wanted to encourage all board members, call OJEC. They have incredible resources. They are, by the way, they're understaffed and they need more people, and they are hopefully going to be hiring more people. But even in their busiest time periods, I've been able to call them during my 15-minute break, during my lunch break, and they've been able to answer questions, give me things to research and to look up. Their ethics guide is incredible. Their online resources are incredible. They literally pick up the phone for us. They want to answer questions. They want to address issues ahead of time and not before it happens. Or when it happens, rather. They are an incredible resource. I encourage every board member to give them a call, to ask questions. It's a great resource, and I want to encourage all of us to do that.
Thank you. Trustee Weisman.
Thank you, Chair. Could you kind of speak to, we've heard comments kind of thrown out of conflict of interest based on who donated to campaigns of varying trustees, things like that. So, we have trustees who got, tens of thousands, $20,000 of support from the unions. We've had trustees who've gotten the same amount of money from business owners and things like that. And none of that is a conflict of interest in any way, correct?
Those would fall under campaign finance laws and what the state of Oregon has set forth for tracking and reporting for those type of contributions. Typically, campaign contributions can't be used for personal expenses. And so that's why they are viewed as slightly different than a personal gift or a donation made to a board member or a family member.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mahon.
Don't think 100% was factually accurate, but I don't think anybody on this board has received tens of thousands of dollars from anyone. I don't think anybody spent that much on their whole campaign, many people. Sorry, I digress. Really kind of stupid question. We get like a little $20 gift each year. I refused it last year. It seems sort of weird that we get a gift from the college, even if it's just like a bottle of wine or something, just making sure there's no issues with that. And then I guess if there's any other documents that we as a board should review on an annual basis, like I'm thinking about the board operating procedures specifically, I would love to have a quick review of that at one of our late summer meetings that we agreed to last year. And if there's any other things that we need to just be refreshed on, I'll just ask to put that out there of please bring it to the board's attention if think we need a refresher on something we have agreed to in the past. That might be helpful. Thank you.
I guess I would just say to that, it is a fairly common practice amongst boards in Oregon that for your time, you might get a little gift once a year from the institution. That's not something that just the Lane Community College Board does. But even in those situations, you would want to keep the $50 gift limit in mind. Also, though, the state in the February legislative session passed a law dealing with gifts that you might receive, or what used to be considered gifts from an institution. Anything that would be LCC branded, for example, if you received a jacket, an LCC jacket that cost $75, and those were given out to each board member to wear in public to advertise the college, or to wear to a sporting event, or to a performance in the performance hall. That's now considered to be okay, and it doesn't violate the $50 limit rule. And so that's a change that has been made in this past year.
Any other questions for Brett?
No.
Great. Thanks, Brett.
Don't forget to sign.
Oh, yes. And everyone make sure, please, if you haven't already, to sign. All right, we'll now move on to the Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report. President Bolger.
Yes, this is an annual report as well with the Bond Oversight Committee. That we have a chair of the committee, but this evening we have Jennifer Hayward actually presenting this report, the annual report. Jennifer?
Good evening, and I'll keep this brief. I just want to start out by thanking the Bond Oversight Committee Chair Barnhart for his excellent leadership over the past several years. And thank you to the Bond Oversight Committee members too. And thank you to the board for appointing all of them. And then I want to especially thank Tom Goodhue, who spoke to you earlier tonight, for his leadership and oversight in this area and doing the good work that you read about in the memo and the annual report from the Oversight Committee. And then I'll just quickly highlight a few of the key projects from this last year. The science lab renovations and major maintenance improvements to Building 16 are nearing completion, as well as replacement of outdated fire system panels, which is an important deferred maintenance project. And another important deferred maintenance project that we kicked off right after graduation was the demolition and structural repairs of the second level of the elevated platforms around the center building. And there will be seismic improvements to those too. And that's a kind of a fun project to see. If you want to walk around the second level of the center building, you can get a glimpse of what we're doing there. And that's all I had.
Any questions? Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. The report references approximately $10 million in additional revenue from interest earnings, rebates, and investment income. Can you clarify? I think I know the answer to this, but can you clarify whether those funds are legally restricted to bond purposes or whether any portion is available to support general operating expenses?
My understanding is that they're restricted, but I'll just look to Kara to confirm.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Great. Thank you so much. The next item we'll be moving on to is the academic affairs update.
Thank you. And we can wrap up with 3 brief updates. Academic affairs would be first, human resources, and then student affairs.
Good evening, board member. Excuse me. Good evening. As we move into the summer months, academic affairs has shifted its focus from commencement to assessing outcomes from the past academic year and planning for the year ahead. This includes preparing annual reports, developing upcoming annual goals and objectives, working with our deans during summer retreats, and preparing for the upcoming academic year. We have also been conducting several successful interim leadership searches, which Dr. Bulger mentioned in her report. I would like to provide a brief accreditation update in my role as the college's accreditation liaison officer to the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. I have begun working with my team to prepare for the policies, regulations, and financial review. This is due in August of 2027. Although this report is still a year away, the summer provides an excellent opportunity for us to get a jump start on this work. Once that report is drafted, we will immediately start preparing for our next major accreditation milestone, and that is the evaluation of institutional effectiveness report and site visit. That report is due in August of 2028. As a result, the next 2 years will involve significant accreditation work as we prepare for these important commission reviews. And we are being intentional in our planning right now. So summer is really important for accreditation work. Also in my role as the college's accreditation liaison officer, I receive and respond to complaints filed with the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. While it is not customary for the ALO to provide the board with updates on complaints, I believe it is appropriate for me to provide you with information in this instance because LCCEA publicly referenced these complaints in its May 6th report. I want to ensure that you have all necessary information. All 3 complaints referenced in the association's May 6th report have now been determined by NWCCU to be without merit, including the complaint related to the HIM program, Health Information Management, NWCCU found insufficient evidence to demonstrate that the college was out of compliance with any accreditation standard, and all of these matters are now closed. Finally, as mentioned in my submitted report, I am pleased to share that anatomy and physiology faculty member Jennifer Snippen, who has experience as a death investigator, has published an article, Locked-in Syndrome from Delayed Artery Dissection After Strangulation, a case report in the Clinical Practice and Cases in Emergency Medicine Journal. I tend to lose my voice at night. I think this happened 2 meetings ago. Jennifer is neither a physician nor is she affiliated with a major research institution. We are not an R1. So this makes this publication really noteworthy accomplishment for this faculty member. This is an exceptional achievement, and we're really proud that Lane Community College, as a community college, is the affiliated institution in that journal. So it's just a huge accomplishment for our faculty member. So I really want to acknowledge that work. And her background is quite fascinating as well. Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Dr. Tinkham. Go ahead, Trustee Mahon, and then Trustee Altucker.
I'm glad to hear the complaint issues have been resolved. Can you share the findings of that report, the conclusion that you received that says that we are in compliance?
Believe I can. I do want to check with President Bulger and how we want to communicate that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like hearing their words of, that this dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's is very helpful. So I'm glad to hear we were in compliance on all of those things, and I would love to see the report that states that.
Okay. I'll follow up with President Bulger.
Thank you. Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. I appreciate your report and on all the successes. That's great to hear, and it's enjoyable to read. This is a question and maybe more of a request. So, and it has to do with AI.
Mm-hmm.
How are you, as a board member and a trustee, I would be interested in more presentations, more information about how the college is preparing faculty and students for the increasing use of AI in teaching and learning and workforce development and preparation. So that's really not a question. It's just like, that would be something that I would be interested in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And maybe we can add that as a future agenda item of some sort. Any further questions for Dr. Tinkham? Great. Thank you. I believe next we have Human Resources. Shane.
Good evening, President Olson, President Bulger, members of the board. I have 2 bright spots that I want to share with you this evening. Effective today, Grant Matthews is joining Human Resources as AVP of Human Resources. And he is coming into a vacant position. But what excites me about this move, besides just working with Grant, is that it builds capacity within Human Resources to implement a HR business partner model. If any of you have worked in an environment that had those, what it allows us to do is create engagement with each of our managers on a quarterly basis, working through issues of performance management, of employee engagement, of workforce planning, of professional development for both the managers and their staff. It's going to give us hands-on application with each department in a way that I simply couldn't complete on my own. And will provide us rich data that we'll be able to bring back to cabinet about what is happening in departments and how we can address those at a campus-wide level. So I'm very excited to get that started, and we'll be happy to provide data on the output of that new model as it becomes available. The other bright spot that I wanted to share is on July 16th from 2 to 5. We welcome you to join us in celebrating our classified employees during the appreciation event. That's something we do annually and have done so for the last 3 or 4 years now. It's a wonderful event. It'll be held in Bristow Square and also in the Center Building. It'll be food, fun, games, and I invite you to join us in celebrating our classified staff. welcome any questions you might have.
What was that date again?
Thursday, July 16th.
Perfect. Thank you.
2 to 5, you said?
2 to 5. Mhm.
Great. Any further questions? Shane? Great. Thanks, Shane. Next up, we have Student Affairs. Colin.
Good evening again, everybody. On behalf of Student Affairs, I really delighted to welcome our Associate Vice President for Cultures and Belonging, Pierre Morton. With his arrival, the Multicultural Center, the Gender Equity Center, and the Longhouse, along with associate faculty student unions, will be have moved from Dean Carl Ye to AVP Morton's portfolio. Additionally, AVP Morton will become the vice chair of the Diversity Council. That's a post that I've held as interim since 2023. And then a couple of big losses here to Student Affairs. After 6 years of serving Lane Community College, Dean of Students Mandy Pritchard, she departed the college for a wonderful opportunity in her home state of New Mexico. She'll be the Associate Vice President of Student Affairs at Santa Fe Community College, and she's been one of Lane's fiercest advocates over the years with access and equality and equity for all front and center in everything she does. We are going to miss her terribly. She has family, her tribe, the Pueblo, are down there, and so I think she's really happy in going down there to be with family as well. And then another one in Student Affairs in Building 1, Rodney Brown is retiring. He's been with us for 34 years. He had a bit of a get-together last night, and a lot of people turned up for it. He served the entirety of his tenure in Student Affairs, and his last day, June the 30th, and he will be truly missed. Some others, this is our students do really well when it comes to the Ford Foundation. 17 students from Lane Community College were selected to receive the Ford Family Foundation Scholarship, with 9 of those using the award here at LCC and 8 recipients transferring to a 4-year university in fall of 2026. The Ford Opportunity Scholars Program, it's highly selective, it really is. And it provides 90% of unmet need per academic year. So when we talk about students with finance, that's one of the most amazing scholarships you can get. Our Child and Family Center is pleased to report that their summer program has officially begun and it's fully enrolled. And they're having fun, engaging, enriching summer experience for all kids and families. And it's nice to bring the children all around campus at different times. It's fun to see them. And things are looking good for fall as well as far as enrollments are concerned. Last couple of things here. International programs proudly celebrated the graduation of 34 international students at the commencement there a couple of weeks ago. And the IP department hosted its annual international programs graduate celebration in Building 1. And I appreciate now Chair Maldonado and former Chair Felnagi for attending that. And it was nice to see you present. And then finally, Summer Reg Fest. These are the event that we host on a regular basis. Building 1, 19 staff are there, and we have pretty much all services. It's a one-stop shop for any possible students or prospects who are interested in Lane Community College. We have basically with admissions, records, accommodations, accessible resources, career pathways, financial aid, testing, all those things, and they're present multiple times between now and the start of fall term, even on Saturdays. And so I do appreciate the teams coming in and doing that extra work. And they meet with, something like 70, 80 students and their families and supporting cast members each time. So I want to mention that, and I'm up for questions if anyone's got any.
Any questions?
There's a comment.
Trustee, yeah.
Yeah, I got to attend the blanket ceremony at the At the Longhouse, that was a beautiful event and tradition, as well as being able to put the eagle feather onto this beautiful, beautiful staff that has so many cultural references and amongst potlatch culture and so forth. It's really beautiful to see those things. Additionally, the international student graduation celebration was incredible, especially underneath all those flags of all the students that from all over the world. It gives you a perspective that, you know, the community's college involves the greater community of the globe. I would, as a request to the chair and to the president, I would love to get some updates about the international program. Obviously, political dynamics and a variety of other different things that are going on nationwide and around our world is impacting international education and international education access. And I think that having a presentation on that for the board can be really beneficial as part of our fiduciary responsibilities, and also just greater knowledge to the community. And wherever we can remove barriers for people from around the world to come here, the better, because I see the best situations in our classrooms that could happen is if a traditional student sits next to a non-traditional student, next to a worker that lost their job, next to someone who comes from a country outside a different country, and them learning together, doing group projects together. There is amazing learning that can happen in those situations, and that can only happen if we're able to bring international students to our community. So I look forward to those discussions and hope we can bring that up for a future.
I'm sure President Bolger heard that for sure. We'll have that conversation. Thank you, Trustee Weisman.
Thank you, Chair. Colin, could you tell me how many students received the Ford Family scholarships again?
Yes, it was 17 students, and of those, 9 of them are using the award here, and 8 of them are transferring to a 4-year university.
That is phenomenal. I am a proud recipient of the Ford Family Restart Scholarship, and I would not be where I am today without them. And they funded me to get my bachelor's degree after I had to leave college when I was in my 20s, and I was able to get it again, and then they actually helped me again. And so it is highly competitive. I mean, 700,000 people are actually applying, and that you get it is pretty damn special. And so I can't be prouder that we have 17. And I just want to do a shout out to the Ford Family Foundation for their ongoing support for education. They have multiple ones for like single moms and all kinds of stuff, and Restart for someone who had to leave and has got to finish. So I just wanted to take a moment to just call out that foundation for the incredible support they have for the students. And I'm sure the students that received it feel the same way I do, that they're just excited as hell because they pay for everything.
That's a kind of a living success story. And if I can also mention, our college achievement coaches put on so many scholarship workshops, helping these students to understand how to apply and how to write these applications. So they put a lot of work in. Yeah.
I was one of the LCC students that then transferred. So
Oh,
with that
excellent.
scholarship. So I absolutely living legacy. So I'm really proud right now.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Any further questions? Great. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, we'll now move along to information reports. If there are any questions or comments from board members regarding information reports, I'll bet now would be the time to do that. Trustee Altucker.
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of questions, and I notice our time clock is blank.
Yeah, the screen has gone, but.
Turns off once we get to this part.
Oh. Well, I learned something.
Take as much time as you want.
Well,
yeah, you start stretching.
Okay.
See, that computer screen's been looking directly at me. You guys don't see it as often as I do. So yeah.
All right, thank you. The first question is about the annual treatment of staff. So the first question is like, that title doesn't make intuitive sense to me. So I'm wondering if you can just explain why it's called that. But the real question is, I'm wondering if there's value in providing some trend lines, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, so that we can kind of see trends in those numbers and perhaps it might be valuable for the board if there could be a short discussion about organizational lessons learned, so that the board can better judge whether the college's work environment is improving over the time.
Yes, please, Shane.
Thanks. The treatment of staff, it's tied to the board policy that is the reason that it's produced. So it's just historical. I would say that we could absolutely produce trend lines. This is a report that I submit to the board every year in July, and so you can look back and see what the history has been. I think what makes analysis a little bit difficult is it's something that cuts both ways. So if you have a situation where you don't have a lot of reports, you could presume that means, hey, everything's fine. Or you could presume that we're not getting a lot of, people aren't submitting. And so conversely, if you have a year where you have a lot of reports, does that mean things are bad? Or does that mean that people feel trust in the system to submit the complaints? So we could absolutely create those trend lines for you, but with those caveats that it may not tell you what you think it's telling you. You had a third question in there that I don't know that I caught. So if you could repeat that.
No, I think you answered my question, and I appreciate the context there, and it might be an interesting discussion for the board to have.
Yeah, absolutely. What I will say is, in working with PACE, our insurer, on a couple of these claims, they've noticed a dramatic increase in the number of claims this year. There's some tie, I think, to the state of the economy when things get rough and there's not a lot of mobility, and people are sometimes unhappy that that's the avenue that they pursue. So it's something they're noticing industry wide as well. But glad to work with Dr. Bulger on producing some trend line reports for you all.
Thank you. Chair, I have other questions. I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
Let's see if we can go first round for other folks, and then I'm happy to come back.
Okay.
Any other Well, that was short-lived. All right, Trustee Altucker, take it away.
Thank you. Item B, annual bias incident report. I have a question about the status of individual column. Is that the person who alleged to have engaged in bias, or is that the person who made the complaint, or is that the person who experienced the alleged bias? It's just unclear.
So that's the person against whom the complaint was made.
Okay. So the person alleged to have engaged in the behavior. Okay, that's helpful. And again, trends over years might be useful for the board. I don't know if that's easily or obtained or developed. And then I thought, well, how do we compare with other community colleges? I don't know if that information is even available.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure how widely done a bias response team is. It's not done in every community college. It's more common in a university setting, and but we could sure poll our peers and see if they have relevant data.
Yeah, I don't want to add an undue amount of extra things for you to do, but it was a thought and a question I had.
Sure.
Thank you.
Don't leave yet.
The other from
No, I think my next question is for Kara.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you. As we begin FY27, what are some of the largest financial risks that you are monitoring, and what indicators should the board be paying attention to over the next 6 months, 12 months?
That's a great question. The first financial risk I would say is just continuing to monitor the revenue flow, which is, a third of our general fund is tied to tuition. That's why we talk a lot about enrollment, our enrollment goals, and keeping in tune with that. That is pretty key. Of course, monitoring expenses is just another factor, the thing that you risk is, for example, this year that we just closed, had a large leak in our center building where we ended up with about 200,000 out of the general fund. So those are some of the risks, but the bigger risk is just ensuring we're staying on track with our targets, maintaining where we're at. It's a tight budget that we'll have to continue to monitor and make sure that the revenue comes in.
Thank you. That's all I have for you. Okay, Brett, I think I have a question for you. On item I, legislative update. What does the revised current service level reduction mean for LCC's long-term financial planning? Maybe it is a question for Kara. So if I'm reading the report correctly, it suggests a $35 million decrease in the overall state funding for community colleges. Is that correct?
So the state right now is going through the phase where they're preparing the budgets for the next 2-year budget cycle. And agencies are preparing the budget. DAS, the Department of Administrative Services, does a calculation where they figure out what current service level funding is required for each agency. You may recall Kara's presentation a month ago or maybe 2 months ago about the PERS side accounts that we have here at Lane and that a lot of the community colleges have, and how we're at the end of that 20-year, the 20-year bond for those side accounts. And because it expires in the middle of the next 2-year budget for the state, the way DAS calculated the current service level initially for community colleges was to include the cost that colleges were having to pay for those bonds, but not including the revenue because the revenue was ending. And so it created an artificially high current service level number for community colleges. They reviewed it multiple times, determined that the way they were calculating it was correct, but they knew that that wasn't the actual current service level for the colleges. The current service level amount provided by the colleges through OCCA to the HEC, I believe, was around 7 or 8%. And so it's significantly lower. DAS did recalculate and they ended up lowering the current service level amount for community colleges by about 5%. The current service level that they calculate currently now is still higher than what community colleges are asking for and what we've determined the current service level to be for the next 2-year budget cycle. I should point out that DAS also recalculated the current service level for universities, and their current service level as calculated by the state is less than their ask. And so they actually moved into a more difficult position to start the budget year because they are most likely in the governor's budget going to see that their funding level might be less than what they're asking for. All of this is part of the process, but we are, even if DAS had recalculated and said our current service level was 12%, it is highly unlikely that we would see a 12% increase in the governor's budget. They don't have the funding for that because of the big holes that have been created by the HR 1 last year, as we've talked about with Medicaid, SNAP funding and a lot of the federal resources. And that's just from that one bill, but they're experiencing it from other programs as well. And so the governor's already told agencies not to look for new funding for initiatives, no programs, things like that. And so we are entering this cycle. It's going to be a tough year for higher ed, but that's a long way of saying that the numbers don't count it as money in the bank, I guess is where I should close with this. The numbers are high, but that doesn't mean that the state's going to fund us at those levels. And I think as we move into the next 2-year cycle, 29-31, the universities are going to be in a similar position because that's when a lot of their side accounts expire. And so it's probably going to be reversed where they have a little bit higher CSL numbers than we do.
I think I caught some of that, and I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Yes, anytime.
Really
Thank
quick
you.
there.
I got trustee Weisman and then trustee Fullnagy.
So I'm with I'm with Kevin on this. I think I got most of that. And I'm aware of some of the state funding as well for my agency. But I guess the cautionary moment is that we kind of like just assume that we're staying flat on our funding. Is that kind of the safe way to go here? Is that kind of what we're doing?
Yes and no. They're, the colleges have submitted a request that is and I don't know the exact percent, it's 7 to 8% increase. And so most agency budgets are going to look at driving factors like inflation and roll-up costs, increases in minimum wage, all of those factors that lead to some adjustments being necessary. But I would be shocked if it will be very difficult to meet what we are asking for. It would be a shocker if we get beyond that in the current climate. OCCA prepared a 3-page document that provides a little more detail on this, on the recalculation of the current service level. And I can provide that to President Bolger. I'm sure she can share that with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that it's so important right now to take a look at the numbers that we are going to be giving to the board in reports, because we are listening to the how the environment is thinking about the current service level, and so we're not optimistic in any way. And so the reports that we're going to be giving to the board do not take that into account.
Great. Thank you. Trustee Fullnagy.
I just want to encourage all of us to participate in lobby days and to participate in reaching out to our legislators and so forth. This is really important work in making sure that we can pass a current service level budget, an actual current service level budget. Quite frankly, if we were to fund community colleges the way Washington does, even other states, to be honest, there's more resources for us to have to help support students. And I've said this a few times, just, get involved in the legislative process this year, or this upcoming legislative year, rather. It's going to be a critical one. There's going to be a lot of conversations. There's going to be a lot of people that, a lot of programs are going to be cut, a lot of things that are just going to be reduced in funding. And we need to make the point that community colleges is critical to our local economies and so forth. I also want to encourage students to also be active in that process because that is 100%. But oftentimes when we go to meet with legislators, yes, they hear us, but they also want to hear from students. And I know that student organizations are going to be in full force with this as well, in collaboration with labor unions, OCCA, and so forth. So I just want to encourage all of us to be involved.
Thanks, Trustee. Trustee Mulholland.
I can maybe follow up after. I had difficulty accessing some of the documents over the weekend. I don't know if they were just not uploaded until Monday or if I was having personal technical difficulties. So I know that that's usually when I do review the documents. So anyways, I'll follow up and ask if I was having technical difficulties or something else happened. Just really like having those available.
Let's do.
Great. Thank you, Trustee. President Olson.
Kind of wanted to respond to that point about student involvement in legislative lobbying and taking part in that. The Senate does have a legislative liaison who does meet with Brett on a somewhat regular basis to talk about legislative needs. I personally, in my own effects as the president, have been working with other student governments around the state in whatever representative, typically their president, they send to it, and have, I believe, if I might be corrected, but we have drafted a memorandum of understanding, and it is yet to be passed by the college review here, but we hope to sign on to that to work with them and establish the Oregon College Association, I think we're calling it, to work collectively between all higher education institutions that sign on to kind of have this collective large student voice that has been missing the last few years.
Yeah. Thanks for your work in that, by the way.
Very good. Thank you. Any other on information reports? Great. We'll now move on to go to the order and do board member questions and comments. how should we start the queue? Let's do trustee Vice Chair Rust and then trustee Polnaghy. Trustee Altucker.
Happy Independence Day, everybody. And I cheated and looked at the score. The USA won their game.
Good.
They're moving on to the top 16 in the world. World Cup, USA.
Oh. Appreciate that. I was curious. First thing I was going to check. Trustee Polnaghy, please.
That's why nobody's watching right now. But anyway, so going back to the topic that was previously being discussed, which was that there was I don't know exactly what happened there. I can answer any questions in regards to the emails that were passed back and forth and so forth. I'm sure President Bolger can also answer any questions. I don't know why that didn't happen earlier in the meeting. But that being said, though, I would like to recommend that the board get a copy of the contract of our legal counsel. This is really important to be able to have access to these things because, anything funded by public dollars, the board deserves to have access to, especially with contracts. And this is in regards to Oregon law too. And if for the record, in the minutes, if you could indicate these ORSs, ORS 192.001 and ORS 192.314 explicitly allows board members to request contracts and so forth. It's not a violation of operations. It is just understanding how public funds are being spent and what they're being spent on and under what scope. And that's a part of fiduciary responsibilities and good faith. Additionally, I would love to, as I was mentioning earlier in my in the information request, I feel that the board could also benefit from the I think it was the MOA about the data sharing with Lynn Benton Community College. I think both of those would be beneficial for the board to understand and to read over. And I think that would address a lot of concerns that many board members might have. So anyway, that's all I wanted to state in that last little bit there. And yeah.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Altucker.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate our newly elected chair and vice chair. These are important leadership roles, and I appreciate your willingness to step up and serve the college in what will be likely another demanding and challenging year. And just know that you have my support, and I look forward to working with you. So thank you. Those challenges include changing demographics, financial pressures, workforce needs, and evolving expectations from our community about what our college should be. And I think that's going to require a board that's curious enough to ask difficult questions and disciplined enough to stay in our governance lane and role, and respectful enough to work through disagreements that we might have without losing sight of our common purpose. So our responsibility, and I know that the board members share this view, is to leave community college better than we found it. And if years from now, people can say, wow, that board, in 2026, they really had their stuff together and they helped build a better institution for decades to come. If that happens, then we've done our job. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. President Olson. Okay. I'll throw myself in. I want to first off thank former Chair Polnaghy for your leadership over the last year. It's obviously been a tumultuous time, and anybody who was in that position over the last 12 months would have faced a lot. And I think you did it. You did it well, and I appreciate your service to this board, and appreciate every other board member's service to this board. As somebody who's been on the board for now 12 months and learned a lot, and now see myself running these meetings. I will promise to you to do my best, and appreciate the encouragement and the support, and look forward to continuing on these next 12 years. Wow. Whoa. Don't write.
I don't think that was in the motion.
Don't put that in the newspaper. But I look forward over this next year to working with you all, working with the president, working with the staff, working with the students to ensure, as Trustee Altucker just will put it, that we are building a community college for the future, and can come together and do that. I wanted to briefly mention commencement. It was fantastic. It was great. Trustee Full Nagy, Trustee Altucker and I were lucky enough to be there. It was really fantastic to get to see all these students. I think the number was, the youngest was 17 and the oldest was 60, in their 60s. So truly a fascinating, fascinating is maybe not the right word, inspiring afternoon to get to see all those folks walk across the stage. I looked terrible in the hat, but that wasn't about me. And I also had the opportunity, and we've come up a lot today, Pierre, but I think perhaps maybe, and we've heard a lot about what's going on with DEI and cultures and belonging, potentially an agenda item in the future to hear more about Dr. Pierre. And I would say that, as my grandma would say, you're a hoot when we got to talk at the international graduation. So it was really a pleasure to get to meet you, and looking forward to hearing more from you. So anyways, that's now I'm getting to Trustee Altucker asking 7 questions level, but I appreciate everyone's humility in that, and I'm allowing me to kind of ramble. So thanks, everybody. Any further board member comments?
Good way to end it.
All right, moving on for future meeting dates. Future meeting date, schedule work session on July 15th, and our next regular board meeting will be on September 2nd, starting at the usual time of 6 p.m. Additionally, the interest, if there is any interest among board members to attend the 2026 ACCT Leadership Congress, that is in Chicago from the 21st through 24th of October. Pass interest along to President Bolger, or say now if you're interested. What's the best process for this?
Well, trustees can certainly say now if they're interested. Typically, trustees, the board will ask someone or invite someone who's never been to that leadership congress. It's a great professional development opportunity. So I'm not sure if anyone wants to do that, or if the board wants to do that now, that would be just fine. We would appreciate that because we need to make sure that there's budget and go ahead and make arrangements.
Is there anybody interested in attending?
And it's in Anaheim this year, correct?
This says Chicago.
Oh, it's Chicago. Oh,
yeah.
I went last year, but totally, if nobody else can go, I would love to go again. It was a fantastic experience.
I would be interested as well.
Okay, Trustee Mulholland is also interested. I would throw my hat in the ring, but I also just went to DC in March, so I'm happy to pass the baton to somebody else and let them go. So perhaps do you think you got 2 folks that are interested?
It's up to the board.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my understanding of how we've handled this in the
Yes.
past is basically we take whoever wants to go, and whoever it's been, it's the longest since they've been to one.
Sure.
That's the person that gets set. So that's how we've talked about doing it in the past.
Okay.
If we want to change that and designate someone, we could do that. But my understanding is that's how we've done it.
Okay. Well, then, Dr. Bolger, if that's kind of precedent, maybe we stick to that. And you've heard from who's interested. So
Trustee Mulholland is
Yep.
what it sounds like. to
it
me.
sounds like to me.
Okay.
Great. Anything else? I get to do the gavel thing. All right, we're now adjourned.
Yeah.